times though. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. Mhm. Yeah, I'm here. How's my volume? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? All right. Testing. Testing. Okay, that's fine. Alrighty.
Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 38 of the Arcade Repair Tips live show for April 2020. My name is Jonathan Leung, the producer, director, and editor of the Arcade Repair Tips video series, and joining me today, as always, even though it is somewhat more remote than usual, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how you doing?
Just getting used to the new normal, you know.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think they heard your dogs barking during the intro there, Tim. We got a little bit of background noise there. Guys, you'll have to bear with us. We're still trying to figure out all this tech stuff, so hopefully it'll go well as we go forward with this. But we are both here, even though we're kind of working in different locations at this point. But Tim, before we get started, on the special after show, which I don't know if everybody saw, but on the special after show, you did talk about a career change. So why don't you go ahead, for those who didn't watch that, and go ahead and give kind of an update on your stats with Mr. Gaddy's and what's going on with you as far as your job is concerned.
Yeah, well, it had been, I'd been offered a job and I hadn't taken it, but until all this kind of happened, it was kind of pushed me in that direction, as Gaddy's did close down temporarily during the COVID break, as the governor said that nobody could, most of the business there was from the arcade and people, big groups and stuff. So we tried to do to-go orders, but it just wasn't working very good. John, you've been there before. It's not even good for curbside. We have a huge front that's blocked off, so you actually have to park and walk about 20, 30 feet. So we just weren't doing enough business to stay open, so we made the decision to go ahead and close for now, laid off everybody, and then so I was a little concerned and went ahead and took another job, and I think that it's going to be a good career move for me. If everybody can see my hat, I'm going back. My very first job ever as a teenager in 1985 was with Dairy Queen, and so I have some experience there, and they offered me a good position where I'm going to be traveling in between stores and doing some training and things like that. So I went back to work for Dairy Queen, and I was only laid off for about a week. Thank goodness that the drive-through here has been pretty busy. People are trying to support us and just drive through and get their food and take it home. And lots of precautions are being taken, of course, to make sure it's safe, and that we're using gloves and everybody's washing their hands and that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, it was a different. It's going to be different. First place I've worked at in 20 years that doesn't have an arcade. But maybe I'll get some games in the lobby or something before it's all over
there you
with.
Go. Now, obviously, yeah, like you said, Dairy Queen, not a amusement type chain, which is okay, I think, in this particular climate, because it seems like those are getting hit a little bit more hard than some of the just regular food chains are. You mentioned that Dairy Queen seems to be doing really well right now, which is a really good thing. So.
Yeah, I noticed that Dave and Buster's earnings call was today. I didn't get to make it. Maybe we'll talk about that later.
16% up from expected.
Okay, everybody was doing so good though too, and I think that that's part of the what's frustrating right now is I think the economy was doing good, things were doing good, people's jobs were doing good, and then all of a sudden this. So. Maybe we'll get back there, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, before we get started, I do want to recognize some of the people in the live chat and remind people that you can interact with us during the show by leaving your messages in the live chat, questions, comments, whatever you have. And Tim, one of our moderators is here tonight, Louie, of course, who does a lot of posts on our Facebook page, and he will also be moderating the live chat for us this evening. So thank you, Louie, for doing that. Shingo is here. He says hi. Josh B says evening. Jason Steverson says what's up. Let's see what else we got here. The real Hammer Billy Lee says hey guys. And then, of course, we had some behind-the-scenes chat, Tim, where I think they could hear you, but they couldn't hear me before the show started. But that's okay. I mean, we didn't say anything inappropriate, I don't think. So, everything is okay. So, we're good there. But obviously, guys, we're going to be doing what we do every time we do a live show. We'll be taking your questions, and we'll also be going over some of the questions from previous live shows and some questions we've gotten since the last live show. And also, if you feel so inclined, make sure that you click the little $ down below there that allows you to donate to us. We would be very appreciative if you would do that, or if you would like to donate in a different way, maybe via PayPal, you can do that by going to arcaderepairtips.com/donate. Now, Tim, obviously, we're not the only cause out there that you can donate to, and I think if we do get money tonight, more than likely we're going to apply that to some other charities that we know of. So if you guys do want to give us some money tonight, we'll probably be forwarding that along, because at this point, Tim, there are more important efforts going on than Arcade Repair Tips. So,
all right. You can mention, John, the shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah,
tonight.
So speaking of supporting different events and things, Tim is rocking a Texas Pinball shirt that we just ordered for him out of the Arcade Repair Tips Fund to help support the show, because one of the things we'll be talking about later this evening is that the Texas Pinball Festival did not happen, and so they're looking for you to support. And you can do that by going to texaspinball.com and buying some items from their store. We know that Louie, Tim, also ordered some items from their store to help support the show. Tim, obviously the Texas Pinball Festival has been a staple for us us. We have not been every year, but we have been most years, and we know the organizers of the show. We're very friendly with them, and they're good friends of ours. And so if there's any way that you can help, we do recommend going to texaspinball.com and trying to buy something from their store, whether that's a shirt or a grab bag, or they've got a lot of different things that you can order at this time. And Tim, they did have some Texas Pinball 2020 like t-shirts and things, but it looks like they've taken those down while they check some inventory. So if you want one of those, you may have to wait. But again, guys, we're really sad that they had to cancel, and we hope that you'll go to texaspinball.com and support them, just like we did. So, but Rexer Show just chimed in. He says, "Hey guys, good luck with the new job." Yeah, he says, "Good luck with the new job, Tim."
Thank you.
There you go. So, Tim, I think we're all caught up on the live chat at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and review some of the questions and follow-ups that we got from the previous show real quick. So the first one we have here is from Daniel, Tim, and this was regarding the 39-in-1 monitor issue that he had. And he says, "Amazing. Thank you for the info and sending the live stream link. Your solution did help me out, and it is working now. I really do appreciate it." And he also sent another follow-up email saying, "Hi, just wanted to thank you for your advice in getting my multicade to work again. Very cool that you asked the question live on your channel." Yeah, and that's what we do here, right, Tim? We actually answer those questions. And Tim, if I remember correctly, Daniel's question was from the last show, in which he was trying to get a computer monitor working with his 39-in-1 board, and we told him to switch the dip switch, and apparently that got it working. So we're glad to hear the follow-up on that, Daniel, and good luck with your future arcade projects. Let's see what else we got here. Another follow-up from Josh, and this was concerning the isolation transformer, Tim. If you remember, he had a question about the isolation transformer and how that all worked. And he said, "Finally got a chance to catch up on this episode via the podcast. Thanks very much for answering my question about the isolation transformer. I figured it was pretty reliable and safe to keep the original, but I feel better about it now that you guys have weighed in with your experience. I kept the old transformer, installed the new power supply, and everything works great. CRT image looks very nice, and I haven't done a cap kit or anything." And so, Tim, we're kind of under that whole thing where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So isolation transformers, for sure, because, they're very reliable, like we talked about in the previous episode with Josh's question. And, if you don't have to replace them, don't. Keep it in there, and typically they'll run for a good long while. And if they do die, they usually just die, and you just need to replace it. So, not a whole lot of repair to do on that. Like I said, a lot of times we'll just do a replacement for the most part. But it's good to hear feedback, Tim, on these two questions from the last show. Always good to get follow-ups and things like that, right?
Oh, yeah, I always like to hear back, because a lot of times we never know what happened. Or even if they have a follow-up issue or something, or it didn't work, sometimes we can point them in a different direction. So by all means, please keep the follow-up questions coming.
Absolutely. So, Tim, before I get into the actual questions, I'm going to go ahead and check back in with the live chat. And it's Louis actually posted a link to the Texas Pinball site where they can go to buy some items. So, you guys, again, encouraging you guys to go there if you can. Purchase something, help out the show, because obviously they didn't have a show, so they weren't able to raise the money that they would normally get from admission fees and stuff. So, if you want to see a Texas Pinball Festival 2021, you should probably invest in something from the store at this point. So, we also have YouTube Punk is here. He says, "Hello there." And he said, "Just donated via PayPal, Tim. Thank you so much, YouTube Punk. We really appreciate it." So thumbs up. There you go, Tim. So YouTube Punk says, "New job. I missed the intro." So you want to catch him up real quick since he missed the beginning there?
Yeah, I left Gaddy's when all this COVID kind of stuff shut them down for temporarily. I do think they will restructure and reopen, but in the meantime, I went back to work for Dairy Queen, which I worked for my very first job, and I'm doing some area like general manager for them. So it'll be an interesting challenge for me for sure. I've been going in about 5:30 in the morning and working to about 4 in the evening. So definitely getting up early and having to do some different type of work, but something I'm catching on, I think, pretty quick.
Now, we should mention the reason you have to go in so early is because the Dairy Queens here actually open for breakfast, right?
Right. They serve breakfast, so that's basically part of the reason is to get everything set up, because at 7 a.m. we open and start serving breakfast.
There you go. So, but anyway, so that's the catch up for YouTube Punk. Let me go back to the live chat here. Let's see. Oh, Josh B. Josh, who asked the isolation transformer question, is actually in the live chat here, and he says thanks again, which is really nice. YouTube Punk says DQ Country. That's right. Thanks for the recap. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, I think we're all caught up, and he has his DQ hat on if you don't see it. So there it is right there. Awesome. Well, Tim, I think like I said, we're caught up on the live chat for the moment, so let us go ahead and roll into some of the questions for this month, Tim. And the first one we have is from Gary, so I'm going to put that up here real quick. And Gary says, "Hi there, I have just inherited a Williams Defender from my brother-in-law. Love the game, but this has issues. Powers up fine, the picture, etc. all look mint. The problem is the thrust and firing buttons. They work only sporadically, which means you can't play the game at all. All other buttons appear to work just fine. Any advice, please, for a rookie with no way of getting pro help? Quarantine times." Tim, how appropriate, right? Obviously, this is a recent question because you wouldn't have put that in at any other time that we've been around, right? So quarantine times right there. So, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back here. So Gary's got a Williams Defender, Tim. It sounds like he inherited it, which means that he got it for free. It's always good to get games for free. But the problem is that the thrust and firing buttons are only working, and he says sporadically, intermittently may be a good way to term it. What do you think is going on, and what can Gary do to get these buttons working more regularly?
Well, if it's the original Defender style buttons, which it probably is, almost every one I've ever seen, they have a couple leaf switches underneath as you hit it. A lot of times you just have to adjust those, and you can we can take a pair of small, I like the really thin needle nose pliers, the really skinny ones, and you can bend that just a little bit to make it to where it doesn't, as you push the button, there's two leaf switches, see if I can make this with my hand, and one of them is tapping the bottom one. As they connect, that's when you're firing or whatever. So sometimes you can either bend the bottom a little or the top one, just get them to where they're really close so it doesn't take much to make that connection. And I would assume that's his problem. Now, if they've been changed over the years and maybe it has more of a cherry style, still the same issue a lot of times, or it could be the wires going to it, reflowing the solder to those. But most of the time, you just have those old leaf switch. They get kind of corroded. They get oxidized over the years. But most of the time I've ever seen that it's just needs a little bit of tweaking. Now, I know some of our suppliers actually carry something for that to clean those with. I highly recommend getting the proper tool to do it with. But in the meantime, I have seen a lot of guys take like a credit card or something and put in the between there to kind of make a space. And then when you remove the credit card, it seems like it's just about right. Also, I've seen people use your wife's nail file or something. You can kind of get up in there, or a little piece of sandpaper just to knock some of that oxidation off. But more than likely, it doesn't sound like that it's too big a problem. Now, if you can bypass, you could take a jumper wire and jumper those, and if you're still having some fire problems or something, then you may have a chip or something on your board. That should come up probably in the checks when your system is booting up, but most of the time it just needs a tweaking.
There you go.
It's usually not a big
There you
deal.
go, Tim. And I'm going to go ahead and basically put up an outline, a little screen here that says exactly what you just said. So arcade push buttons are comprised of two parts, a plastic button and an inner spring combination piece and switch. And a switch. When the button is depressed, it makes contact with the switch. And like Tim, you kind of made like a little duck with your hands there, Tim. It says whenever it makes contact with the switch, sends a signal to the board that the connection is closed. The signal is sent via two wires connected to the switch, one wire that corresponds to the button action and a ground wire. On older games like Defender, obviously they use leaf switches typically, Tim, like we talked about. These can be adjusted to be more or less sensitive by adjusting the distance between the two leaf prongs. And then, Tim, something else that you brought up was the fact that you can actually clean those with, like, you know, a nail file, some really kind of fine sandpaper or something like that you can kind of get in there just to knock that oxidation off and help that connection. But Tim, a lot of times we'll take some needle nose pliers and kind of just bend maybe either the bottom or the top down just a bit to help that connection. And so I think either maybe knocking some oxidation off with the sandpaper or using some needle nose and bending one of those leaf prongs either up or down just a bit will probably help that connection to be more stable, kind of like you mentioned, Tim. Do you have anything else for Gary here before we move on?
No, I don't think so. But I think Gary, don't fret over it too much. This is usually a pretty easy fix.
Right, exactly. And so the nice thing is that it is working intermittently, like you mentioned, Tim, which usually leads us to the actual button, the actual switch. But it is possible, like Tim mentioned, that you do have a input-output issue on your board. And if you do, like Tim mentioned, that'll usually come up in the self-test. Williams Games have a really good self-test that they do. And so if you are having that problem, more than likely you're going to see it there. But maybe not. And so you may want to just try, like Tim mentioned, touching the two wires together to see if it makes that connection every time. And if it does, more than likely it's in your switch. So Gary, hopefully that answers your question, and good luck with your repair on your Williams Defender game. Okay, Tim, we got some live chat action here. We got Mr. Dwayne. He says, hey guys, glad to see a live show. Missed the Tuesday show. Yeah, the Tuesday show was more just a test for this show, right, Tim? It was just a way that we could kind of test the tech to make sure this was actually doable. And it was, which is the good news. So we are actually both able to be on the show. You get to see Tim, you get to see me. So it's almost like we're in the same room like usual, but a little bit different. I think I'm going to have to buy Tim some software where he can change the background to his little thing there. We may have to do that. But other than that, we're both here and taking questions. So we're glad that you're here as well, Mr. Dwayne. And then Josh B. Tim just donated $10. Thank you so much, Josh. So we appreciate that so much. And like I said, we're going to try to find somewhere to send our portion of this money that goes to a good cause because, Tim, there's so many people on the front lines right now fighting. I think about nurses and doctors and delivery people and all that kind of stuff right now. And restaurants, obviously, Tim, like you mentioned with Mr. Gaze is closed down. There's a lot of people who I think are in need that this money could go to. So if you are donating tonight, we're going to try to find a good charity or something to give that money to so we can help those people out. Louis went ahead and posted a link to adjusting a leaf switch, Tim, which will help out. And it looks like that's on homepinballrepair.com. Pinball machines, Tim, obviously you use a leaf switch typically for the flippers. So, if you find a pinball site, a lot of times you'll see a lot of tips on leaf switches. Let's see. Russell says contact points could be dirty as well. And that is correct. Kind of like what you're talking about, Tim. So, you take some fine grade sandpaper or a nail file or even just cleaning it sometimes with a cloth is enough. So you may want to clean those up. Jason says squeeze a piece of paper between the leaves and pull it out. Repeat until it's clean. Do that too. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to clean leaf switches, Tim. We've done a lot of different things over the years. But, and also the bending, we've bent a lot of them just to make sure. We really want to ensure that that connection is being made. Because sometimes you'll hit the button and it'll contact like every other time, which will cause that intermittent connection that Gary is kind of experiencing. So, okay, I think we're ready to go on here. Oh, hang on a second. Josh has a question. He says, it's a screenshot to go with a question I have about my screen test on my Neo Geo. I'm wondering if it's likely a cap problem or something else I can adjust out. I didn't want to start fiddling with pots willy-nilly until I get some opinions. Josh, you can send that to our normal email address at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Or if you want to send it to me or Tim directly, you can do Jonathan or Tim at arcaderepairtips.com and we'll help you check it out. So obviously, I don't think we can post photos in the live chat, but if you want to go ahead and send it there, we can look at it here in a little bit. So, okay, Tim, with that said, let us continue on. And now, Tim, this next question is actually two questions, but they were so similar that I went ahead and grouped them together. This is from Dylan. The first one's from Dylan. The second one is from Jason. But the questions themselves are pretty much asking the same questions. So I'm going to read both of them, and then we'll answer them both together. So Dylan says, I have a Super Contra unit, and it was working really good until we moved, and now it won't turn on. We can't figure out what it is. If you have any idea or can help in any way, I would really be thankful for that. If not, thanks anyway. So that's Dylan's question, Tim. Then we got Jason here, and he says, I recently resurfaced my man cave and had to move my game out to the garage. When I moved it back in, it wouldn't turn on. I didn't drop it, but I'm guessing the transfer was a little too rough. I know this isn't much to go on, but in your best estimation, what would be the most likely problem based on the info I gave you? Thanks. And Tim, I went ahead and put these two together because they're both about moving a game and it not turning on, right? So, I mean, they're basically the same question. And so instead of doing two different questions, I thought we'll just group these two together and we'll give them both the same answer because they're pretty much on the same wavelength here. And I think for the most part, you'll be able to handle both of them with one. So what do you think about Dylan and Jason's question? What do you think's going on with these games that were previously moved and now when they're moved back, they don't turn on?
Don't move your games, not even half.
There you go. Just don't move them at all.
We've said this before, though. It seems like it does happen a lot, especially when you move a game normally it is something simple. We use the term ASAP, which we say always start at power. So it could be anything. It could be a short in your plug. Most of the time, it's just something as simple as an interlock switch where the door didn't get closed, or now it's a little off that switch and it's just not able to power on. Very rarely is it anything very serious. So I know probably got a slide to show, Jonathan, and you can bring that up whenever you want. But most of the time, it's just something simple that gets jarred loose. Occasionally, a fuse will get loose or blow, but it's in the power somewhere because obviously it was working, and then you move it and it's not. Usually, if you'll follow that power cord into the back of the game and then to where it goes, it could even got unplugged from the monitor or something come jarred loose, or even at your power supply, those little fork prongs, sometimes they will come out if they're not screwed in really tight. If you just lose one of them, you'll lose all your power.
Yeah.
So
I went ahead and put up the slide here, Tim, and on the slide, and I know you can't, Tim unfortunately cannot see the slide, but I put up the real Bob Roberts AC wiring diagram that he has, Tim, that kind of shows the flow of AC power through an arcade cabinet. And what we would recommend for both these is obviously to use the ASAP method, like you mentioned, Tim. Always start at power. We like this approach on most repairs, but especially when the game will not turn on at all, right, Tim? So first off, make sure that the game is getting power from the wall. Check that the cord is in good shape, the power switch is on. Trace the AC voltage through to ensure that all of the correct components are getting power. And when we say correct components, we're talking about make sure the AC is going through the AC filter, through to the power switch, through to, if there's a power distribution block in your game, that's going to that. And then it goes to the AC on the switching power supply and on the isolation transformer and on the marquee. And if you find a gap where you're not getting AC power out of something that you should be, then you may want to see what may be causing that. And so, like, let's say it's not coming out of the other side of the power switch. You could have a faulty power switch. It's possible, or a distribution block. It could be miswired, things like that. So trace the AC wiring through your game. Ensure all components are getting power. Now, Tim mentioned interlock switches. Excuse me. Tim mentioned interlock switches, and I've got a picture of an interlock switch here, Tim. And we actually talked about that on the last show, if you remember. We had a question about interlock switches. But these are switches that are put on the back of the back door, sometimes on the Coindoor, so that when these doors are open, basically the game shuts off. Now, sometimes you have to have those depressed in order for the game to come back on. Sometimes these will malfunction and will not press in all the way, and so it won't engage the switch. But like we mentioned last month, Tim, you can pull these out, and that should engage it as well. So that's the other thing that we mentioned. But those are really the main places. You really just want to ensure that you're getting AC power all the way through to the individual parts of your cabinet, including, like I said, isolation transformer, switching power supply, marquee light, all those good things. So, Tim, is there anything else here you have for Dylan and Jason before we move on?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, there's really about only a few things that it probably could be, but it could be any of them. Even your power switch could have just got jarred or not working right. So it's in the power somewhere. If you'll just start tracking it around, you'll usually find it.
Sounds good. So Dylan and Jason, hopefully answers your question. We hope you get both your cabinets working. I think we had a Super Contra and a Miss Pac-Man Gallagher, right, Tim? So obviously we want to get both those. Actually, Jason did not say, but I believe Jason had a Miss Pac-Man Gallagher. It was in the subject line. I didn't put it there. But in either case, Tim, tracing that AC wiring through the cabinet should lead you to where the issue is. So if you need additional help with that, of course, you can email us back. But hopefully that answers your question, and we'll get both your games up and running very soon. So Tim, here we have some more. We have some more chat room stuff, some more live chat stuff. Danny says, speaking of isolation transformers, I'm getting ready to install one. Kind of new to me, as it has a secondary and a primary. Which one goes to the monitor, and how many grounds do I need? And Tim, Louis was nice enough to actually post a link to a article that talks about how to wire up an isolation transformer. So I would recommend, I'm just going to refer him to that instead. I mean, because I can never remember. I'd have to look at one like right now to be able to tell you. But you know, it just depends. Every isolation transformer is a little bit different. Some of them have an isolation transformer and an AC transformer kind of built into it. So it really depends on which one you have. But hopefully the article will help you out with that. And if you send us a picture of your isolation transformer, we can tell you. But Tim, just from our experience, usually the input comes in from the bottom and the output comes out from the top, right?
That's the best way to say it.
So I mean, that's typically the way we wire it up. I don't think I've seen one that's any different than that. I'm not saying they don't exist, but most of the time, input comes in from the bottom of the isolation transformer. Output goes out the top of the isolation transformer. So you may have one that's different. Just refer to, like I said, either that article or to wherever you buy your isolation transformer. Hopefully, they can give you more information on that. And then Russell donated $20, Tim. We want to thank Russell for that.
Wow.
Hopefully we can find a really good place for all the money that's coming in tonight. We want to thank you guys for your support and donations. And like I said, we're going to try to find a good organization to donate to because there's a lot of people who are in need right now, and we just want to help them out as best we can. So, but anyway, so we got that, and it looks like we're caught up. Cool. Okay, so we're going to continue on here. Tim, I don't know. It's different not having you here. I'm used to like just being able to do this, and obviously I can't do that tonight. So, and I haven't actually seen you in person. I mean, and I'm sure a lot of people are like this. You probably haven't seen your friends in person for like weeks at this point. The last time I saw you, Tim, was when we did the last live show, which was the beginning of March, right?
Yes, I think we both have really tried to practice social distancing, and we make a few runs here and there just to the grocery store or to Dollar General just real quick. I think we did get in the truck one night and just drive to kind of get out of the house. But, I think it's the wise thing that we do. And it's kind of convenient for both of us because I hadn't been off work very long. And it kind of worked out anyway. But, we all got to be careful. And, if people would just stay inside and do what they're supposed to, hopefully this won't last too much longer.
Agreed. And, it's just... It really is a bummer, Tim. I mean, obviously this is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this, and so it's just a really crazy time right now. But hopefully we're going to get past this very soon. I'm trying to stay as optimistic as possible. Obviously, a lot of the estimates have us inside until May, but if we can get to May and get out of here, I'll be very happy with that. If we have to go further, then we'll continue on. But I'm really, really hoping and praying at this point that we're able to get out of our houses here in May and actually be social again. So, but anyway, okay, I'm going to continue on here, Tim. We got another question, and this one is from Gerson, Tim. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw it up here for the viewers at home.
Okay.
Gerson says, "Hi, I was wondering if you know why the screen of our NBA Jam arcade looks like squished, and if you know how to fix it." Now, Tim, obviously I sent you the outline so Tim can see the outline. He doesn't see it like you guys see it, but you did see the picture. And so based on the picture that we have there from Gerson, what do you think the problem is?
Well, I think it's classic starting to get vertical collapse. So before his vertical IC or something goes bad, a lot of times this is where we say, don't play it. Go ahead and try to do a cap kit. A lot of times you can fix that before it goes completely before he flatlines, so we don't want to do that. Most of the time, a good cap kit, of course we could get into specific caps, but while you're in there, you might as well do the whole monitor and fix it. So I think a cap kit will probably fix his problem, and he needs to do that ASAP.
Yeah, and one of the things here, and not always start at power, right? As soon as possible in this particular case. One of the things that's a dead giveaway on this, Tim, is the fold over at the top to me, because that's really that vertical fold over. When we start seeing that, that's a really big indicator of caps. And so I'm going to throw this back up here for the people to see. You'll see that the names, and it's kind of hard to see in the slide, but they're starting to invert over. And when you start to see the kind of fold over effect, Tim, that's very reminiscent of a cap kit or a cap about to die. And like you said, you could get into the specifics about doing like the vertical section. Just want to do the caps in the vertical section. But if you haven't done a cap kit in a while, just order a whole kit, do the whole kit, and touch up the solder while you're in there. It'll make a world of difference in your picture. So I agree with you in this particular case, Tim. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw up our slides so we can tell the people at home. So based on the picture, it looks like it's time for a cap kit. The vertical fold over effect at the top is one of the major indicators of capacitor failure. Please see our post for installing a cap kit for more information. Now, Tim, I don't know how familiar Gerson is with the cap, with ordering cap kits and things like that. So I put some additional information on here for him. You will need to determine the make and model of your monitor chassis in order to know which cap kit to order. See the What's My Monitor page on the Real Bob Roberts site for help. And Tim, there's more websites where you can find monitor pictures and things. We just really like the Real Bob Roberts. Back when Bob was actually open, we ordered stuff from him all the time. and he was always a great resource, and he still has a bunch of great information on his website. So go to the What's My Monitor page on the Real Bob Roberts site for help. If you do a search for What's My Monitor Bob Roberts, you'll find it. The cap kits that we like can be purchased from Syracuse Semiconductor. That's the people we usually purchase our cap kits from. But Tim, obviously, if you go to our resources page, we've got a lot of people who sell cap kits. So that's arcaderepairtips.com/resources. So if you don't want to do Syracuse Semiconductor, you can do one of the other parts suppliers that we have on that resources page. But Syracuse Semiconductor has worked well for us in the past. We've ordered a lot of cap kits from them, and we do recommend them for you. Tim, is there anything else that you want to say to Gerson before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think that should fix his issue.
Okay, sounds good. So Gerson hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting that NBA Jam screen looking 100% perfect. Hopefully you can get it there after a cap kit. Okay, it looks like it's slowing down in the live chat here, Tim, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to another question. And Tim, this was one of my favorites that we got this month, and so that's why I wanted to include it on here. And he actually sent in a picture, which is a really great picture, but I think there's a lot of people, and this is something we really haven't covered, but there are a lot of people who may have experienced this through some difficult circumstances. I think we have experienced this through some difficult circumstances. So I think this is a great question. But let's take this one from Matt real quick, Tim. It says, "Hi, I have watched and enjoyed a few of your videos, but I haven't seen this issue come up. I have a neck board for a monitor that has snapped over time. Do you have any advice on how to fix this? I was thinking maybe I could just connect wires from point to point and bypass the trace. Otherwise, there are a few videos that suggest the epoxy method, which involves scratching back these traces and reconnecting directly. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Matt." So Tim, we have Matt here, and obviously he's got a neck board that has broken in half. So for those people who may be new, Tim, the neck board is the part of the monitor chassis that actually plugs onto the back of the tube. And so it cracks a lot because if that back door falls off or falls onto the neck board, it can cause damage. Or if the neck board, falls off during shipping and something lands on it in the cabinet, it can crack. We've had a lot of circumstances where neck boards crack. And so what Matt's asking is he's basically brought up two different methods here of doing the repair, but he's asking, like, which one should he do? Should he just connect the wires from point to point and bypass the trace completely? Or should he try scratching back the individual traces actually on the circuit board and reconnecting them? What do you recommend, and what do you recommend for Matt, if those are two different things?
Well, I've done it before, Jonathan, pushing it on there before and putting on too much force and actually cracked one. It's kind of a tomato type deal. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Now, if it's just a couple of traces, I usually just jumper them with a wire. If you're getting down to where you're repairing a bunch of wires, it can kind of get scrambled and stuff in there. And if you're really worried about making a good connection, it is wise to kind of etch that back and really get that on there if you have the room and can do that. One thing I don't even think you mentioned in the slide, Jonathan, that you're fixing to show. But yeah, it can get kind of scrambled, but that's what they do. Those traces connect 2 points. So as long as you connect those points, what I have done before too, let's say it was a capacitor that I was connecting to. I put a brand new capacitor through there, and instead of cutting the leg of that capacitor really short, I let the leg fold over and used it kind of as my trace before. That's something that I have done in the past. I mean, I said, you understand the ideal here is probably just to replace it when it's broken, cracked. But sometimes you don't have that choice, or maybe it's not that bad. You're just a trace or two. I say if you're replacing more than 4 or 5 traces, you might as well replace it. But just for a few traces, a little thin jumper wire is not too bad. If there's some high voltage, you might want to use a little thicker wire. Just be careful. Make sure that your solder's not touching another wire. I have created more of a problem by trying to do this. And then I think you are going to recommend that we put a little epoxy or something. One thing that I like to use and have used a lot in the past is just some hot glue to keep the wires down, so you don't have to glue the whole wire, but maybe a point here and a point there and maybe a point here, you can just use that hot glue and kind of take it down to the board. I just don't like a lot of wires all running around and stuff. But anyway, that's my opinion. I've replaced this several times. Most of the time, if it's completely broken half, I would probably just replace it. But it just depends on how many you're doing.
Right, and here's the thing too, Tim, though, is that it's getting less and less feasible to just replace them because obviously finding compatible neck boards is a little bit more difficult. And so I think more and more people are going to start repairing these. And Tim, I don't know, Matt's picture, I kind of cropped it. It actually had a crack pretty much all the way down the board. So I mean, it was about probably about a quarter of the board that was cracked off the side, and it was like it cracked straight off. And so I mean, and obviously it's still hanging on. You can see it's still hanging on a little bit, but it's obviously something that does need to be repaired. So Tim, I'm going to just put up a slide that has exactly what you basically talked about here. So typically we would use jumper wires, like Tim mentioned, or component legs. And Tim, you mentioned leaving that little bit of a cap leg on like a capacitor or on a transistor or whatever resistor so that you can kind of bridge it over with that. Tim, a lot of people will cut, if you keep those little the little parts of the cap legs when you do your cap kit, and you can solder those across too and use those as a bridge. I've heard people use that as well. But you can use those kind of things to repair the electronic parts of the board, and then we'll come back with some epoxy on the top side, or you can do it on the back. We like it on the top so we can see the electronics, but just to make this, just to give it some strength, because that's what we want. We want it to be strong so that it doesn't crack in half again or crack again. And so you can actually use some epoxy on the top side of the board for the physical repair. Tim mentioned using hot glue. It's not a bad idea either. You can use hot glue as well. Now, Tim mentioned it kind of looks weird with that, though. I mean, if you do the jumper wire method, it can get a little bit spaghetti, is what I call it, Tim. I forgot what you said, but jumbled or whatever. It can look a little bit like spaghetti if you're not careful. So that's why a lot of people have gone to just connecting the board straight. And so what they do, Tim, is they take an X-Acto and they just scrape back the solder mask, which is that little green part of the board, right? Like where the stuff is. So that way they can put the board together and just solder, basically put a little bit of solder or bridge the solder over between the traces. Or you can use, like we talked about, little component legs or something like that to just kind of give it that little bit of a bridge. So that's another way to do it. And you can do it that way. It's just not a way that we do as often. It seems like we're more inclined to use the jumper wires than going straight, to the other side of the board. But like Tim mentioned, if you've got a lot of points, if you're doing, if the place where it cracked has like 20 or 15 or 20 points that you're having to reconnect, traces that you're having to bridge over, it may be worth scraping back that solder mask and going ahead and connecting it together. And so it really depends on what your preference is or how many solder points that you have to work with. But both are good. Tim, I still just really want to say that you need something to strengthen that board. So even if you connect the components electronically, whether it's via jumper wires, component legs, or whether it's just soldering, bridging the solder over across, you still need an epoxy or something to hold the board together, because what you definitely don't want to do is you definitely don't want the board cracking again. And so the epoxy will make sure that doesn't happen. So regardless of the method, it really just depends. It really just depends on you, but make sure you use something to strengthen the board after the repair. But other than that, Tim, I think that about covers it. Any other advice from Matt as far as repairing his neck board?
No, I don't think so.
Sounds.
I would like to hear this is one of those I would love to get a feedback response from.
Sounds good. So Matt, whatever method you end up using, please let us know and let us know how the whole process goes, and we look forward to hearing an update soon. So. Okay, it looks like we got a little bit more action in the live chat, Tim. Gerson is actually in the live chat about his NBA Jam, and he says, awesome, I have no idea how to do that, but I will check your other videos, and that is very good advice.
Right.
We mentioned the installing a cap kit, so make sure you check the post and the video for installing a cap kit if you go to arcaderepairtips.com, and you can just click on the search, installing a cap kit, it'll come right up. Watch that video and read the post, and it'll give you everything you need to know about that process. So again, installing a cap kit, Gerson's going to help you out a bunch. Let's see. YouTube Punk says duct tape should have been one of the answers that we used to come back with. Unfortunately, I don't think duct tape in this particular case is strong enough to hold the board together for any length of time. Maybe it could. I don't know. But obviously, we're going to recommend a nice epoxy or something like that to give it that strength. Michael says, do you think the virus will flood the market with games since people are out of work and need income? Now, Tim, kind of off topic from a repair question, but I do think it's a very interesting question. So what do you think? Do you think we're going to see the market flooded flooded with arcade games at this time. I think we're starting to maybe see some of that. I mean, just when I'm searching around already, maybe not like a mass dump. But Tim, I'll tell you one thing I have seen for sure is that some of these, I want to say barcades or arcade bars, some of these arcade bars are starting to sell some of their games. I've seen it, Tim. And so, I mean, that's kind of sad in a way, but you got to do what you got to do to survive. So.
Right. I think that, the sad part of it is that a lot of your major chains, your Dave & Buster's, Chuck E. Cheese's, even Mr. Gaddy's and stuff, I think will survive. A lot of the mom and pops are really struggling right now. And so, our prayers and stuff are with them. But at the same time, it's the natural circle of things. We've seen plenty of places that go out of business. I think that we will see some that probably will not be able to survive this, even with government help or whatever that we do. You just can't be out of business and survive too long, just like most of us. If we don't get income, there's no outcome. We don't have a way to do things. So I hope that if it's short-lived, most people can take a hit, and I think that's one thing when we are able to get back out. Don't go crazy until the safety is over. But when it is, everybody should be supporting their local arcade and their local family entertainment center. And even now, one way, John, that I know that people are doing, let's say you can't go to Dave & Buster's or Chuck E. Cheese, but you could probably go online and buy gift cards or something to use later. So that would help them, even your local mom and pop places. Most everybody has gift cards. So maybe you could go buy some gift cards to be used at a different time if you have the income and you yourself can do it.
And like you said, if you have the income, I think right now, I mean, if you're struggling right now, I understand not everybody has the capability right now to help out some of these arcades. But if you do have the capability to do that, I mean, obviously we bought a Texas Pinball shirt for Tim. Tim bought a t-shirt from arcadeheroes.com, which, is Adam, who's the guy who runs that site. He also owns an arcade in Utah. And so I bought a shirt off his website to help him out as well, because right now his arcade is closed. So, if you know of an arcade near you or people that you want to support, if you have the means right now, buy some of their merchandise, buy a gift card or whatever you can do to help out, because obviously there's a lot of people out there, Tim, who need it. So if you have the means right now, and I know not everybody does, but if you have the means right now, try to help some of these places that need the help. So I don't know if it's a free play arcade or an arcade bar near you, or maybe it's just, like we said, a convention that had to close, like the Texas Pinball Festival. Maybe it's a traditional arcade like what Adam has at arcadeheroes.com. Whatever the case may be, do your part and try to help out if you can. I mean, it really makes a difference here, because I think a lot of these arcade bars and things are going to have a real tough going, especially if they're going to have to go at least one more month and maybe more depending. So
yeah, and we probably should mention, John, that you and I are personally doing okay, because we have savings and we have things, and you've been able to work, and I've got a new job, and I've been able to work. So thank God for that. We're just always broke, so we're kind of we're normal, but we do sympathize with those. And we enjoy going out to eat and playing pinball and doing those things. I can wait. So when we are able to, we'll have to go play. We'll have to go to Grand Slam or somewhere and just have a fun night one night and just spend some money.
Yeah, if anything, I think this has taught us, Tim, that, Tim, I consider myself more of an introvert, but even I am longing for some social interaction at this point. I mean, just because obviously it's been kind of confining to be in the house, but hopefully, obviously I can play games here, but it's not quite the same experience when you're playing them by yourself versus playing them with friends. And so I'm hoping, obviously, like we mentioned, that they're all going to get past this very soon. But in the meantime, yeah, you may see some games come up for sale and things as people are having a tough go of it right now. So, and I would encourage you not to take advantage of people. Pay fair prices for games, especially if it's a game that you really, really want. I mean, don't try to like jip them out of every last cent or whatever the case may be. So, what were you gonna say, Tim?
I said, don't be that
exactly.
guy.
Don't be that guy. So if they're struggling, just pay fair price for it. I mean, if they're offering a good cabinet, solid cabinet game you want, pay whatever you think is fair. So if you have the means, again. So. Let's see what else we have here. Diego Banjo Contrabajo says, "Hey guys, I have an arcade monitor where the brightness goes up and down all the time, and there's interference as well. Would you say that's the flyback related issue? Thanks." So yeah, I mean, in this particular case, it does sound like a flyback issue, and I wouldn't say flyback per se, Tim. I'd say more probably power supply issue, because it may not be related to the flyback necessarily. The first thing I would do, Tim, in this particular case, is touch up all the solder points in the AC section of the monitor, and then check the B plus voltage to make sure it's dialed in, and then also check your input pins and make sure that they're making a good connection. Because Tim, when the input is kind of wonky, you can get that kind of brightness fluctuation as well. So again, input pins and AC section, which is basically where the power comes into the monitor all the way through the flyback. Check to make sure there are no broken solder joints or traces in those sections, and also check your input pins to make sure they're good. Check your B plus voltage and try to dial it in as much as possible. Those things should get you going, because it sounds like an AC power issue. What do you think, Tim?
I think you're exactly right, Johnson, and I'm just sitting here amazed. I'm like, what am I? I don't even know if you need me anymore,
whatever.
The trainee has overcome everything I would have said. I think, John.
Yeah, I can't do this without you, Tim. I'm just warning you right now. Let's see. I'm having a harder time of it anyway. Let's see what we got here. Rexer Show says, I have the same shirt, the Blockbuster one. Do you have, but you have to stand up so people can see what it says. Okay, I'll stand up real quick. Can you see it, Tim? There you go.
Uh-huh.
So,
make it a Blockbuster
night. So that's right.
Yeah, that was their phrase.
Exactly,
right?
That was it. Yeah, man. I tell you what, we wouldn't be at Blockbuster even if it was open right now. So I mean, I like the shirt, and hopefully you like it too, Rexer Show. It's a really cool one. Greg says, I have experience with Sanyo 20EZ monitors and the Wells Gardner in my Pac-Man. However, a Space Invaders Deluxe I have a Space Invaders Deluxe, and the monitor is not seated in the metal frame. How do I discharge it? Also, I can't connect my Crafty Mac TPG monitor tester. How do I test the monitor separately, as it appears to have a unique power and display connector in one? Thank you. That is correct. So, Tim, obviously, Space Invaders Deluxe black and white monitor. And so the dish...
Is it, or is it a raster monitor?
It's a I can't remember if they're black and white or if they're color. Off the top of my head, that is true. It could be a color monitor, just an older version of a color monitor. Tim, how much experience do you have with it? Is the question.
That's what, a high voltage probe is actually the best way to do it.
Yeah, especially on older monitors like this, you're going to need an HV probe. And this is Greg, Tim, is the one who asked this question. So you're going to need an HV probe in order to discharge it, because the screwdriver method on older tubes can sometimes damage them, and you definitely don't want to do this with this tube. So you will need to make an investment in a high voltage probe, Tim. And they start at like $30-$40 for a HV probe. And so if you use that, you don't have to worry about the grounding issue that you're having with your monitor, because the HV probe will just basically, I mean, if you hook it up to any kind of like ground in the cabinet, then it should just suck down that power from the monitors or from the tube. So HV probe is what you'll need to do the discharge. Now, Tim, what about the test pattern generator? I don't have a lot of experience with that. How much experience do you have as far as hooking that up to this monitor?
It's been, gosh, if I've ever done it, it's probably been over 20 years, so I don't know. No, I wouldn't even venture to say. We'll have to do a little more research probably on that one. Maybe Louis can look that up while he's here.
Yeah, unfortunately, neither one of us had the Crafty Mac. That came out kind of, past the point where we were doing a ton of monitor repair like we used to do. And so that thing is really cool. It's great, and the vast majority of monitors are very compatible with it. Unfortunately, we don't have enough familiarity with the Space Invaders Deluxe monitor that you have to really know how to hook that up to the Crafty Mac. And so, like you mentioned, Tim, if Louis may be able to look up something for us, and Tim, it looks like he's got one on how to discharge the monitor, Tim, that he posted, But in this particular case, I don't know if that video shows that he posted a video, Tim, but you're probably going to need the high voltage probe, because like I said, an older CRT here, we want to be really careful with it. And then on the Crafty Mac, not real sure how to hook that up, unfortunately, with this particular monitor.
Yeah, I would think if contacting the Crafty Mac manufacturer would probably be the best bet. That could probably be more likely.
That's a really good idea, Tim. And yeah, and if we knew what model the monitor was, we may be able to figure it out as well. So if you know the model of the monitor in your Space Invaders Deluxe, if we can find some information on it, we may be able to figure out what matches where. Unfortunately, we don't know what it is offhand, and we definitely don't know how it's going to hook up to the Crafty Mac because of that. But if you can determine a model, that may be part of it. But like you said, Tim, reaching out to the Crafty Mac people may not be a bad idea either. So, Greg, I wish we had better answers than that for you. Louis may be able to come back with some links in the live chat for you, though, if he can find the way to hook it up. But unfortunately, off the top of our heads, don't have a whole lot on that. So you may, but get a high voltage probe for sure, and then you may contact the Crafty Mac people and see if they can help you out with the connection. Let's see. Bruce Tim, I acquired a Double Dragon 2 arcade game, and the wiring harness is a complete mess. Am I able to put it in another JAMA cabinet without damaging the board to test? Yes, Double Dragon 2 is a normal JAMA board, so it should go into any JAMA cabinet. Now keep in mind, if you have a JAMA cabinet that's vertical, it may look a little funky if you plug a Double Dragon board into it, as it's a horizontal game, but you should still get picture regardless of which JAMA cabinet you put it in. You may not get control, depending, but you should get picture, and so if you just wanted to test to make sure the board was working, not a bad idea to put it in another JAMA cabinet. So, Tim, anything else?
No, I think that's pretty
Sounds good. Let's see. YouTube Punk says, Charity Navigator and Charity Watchdog have a list of charities to help fight the coronavirus. So there we go. We have some ways to do that. I know about a couple of charities, Tim, so we may end up going with one of those. I have used Charity Navigator in the past. It's a really great website for looking up reputable charities. It tells you what percentage of your donation goes to that actually goes to the people who need to be affected by it, and how much goes to administration and other fees. So Charity Navigator, great website. Let's see. Michael, how do you adjust or, let's see. He said text. How do you adjust or text a original Nintendo power supply, Tim?
Well, the same way that you do all the other power supplies. You find the voltage where it's coming in. Make sure that your in voltage is good. Remember, it's like 100 volts coming in, and then just check for your 5 and your 12 going out.
Right, and Tim, it's been a while since I've looked at inside a Nintendo cabinet. To be honest with you, I've got a Donkey Kong, but it's pretty rock solid for the most part. But there is a little board in there that does the 5 and the 12 and everything. So you just need to test. You can test it there. Or I don't know if there's an adjustment on that board though. I'm trying to remember. This would be a great time to ask Whitney of Broken Token, who has a ton of Nintendo games, because like I said, he has more experience with Nintendo than we've had. It seems, like I said, it's been a while since I've stuck my head in a Nintendo cabinet just because we've been so busy with everything. But there is an adjustment in there, I'm pretty sure. Finding it, like I said, I think it's a little breakout board, but I'd have to go back and see to be sure. And Tim, of course, the manual for Donkey Kong should have that information in it. Or if you I don't know what Nintendo game you have, but there is, if you look in a manual for any Nintendo game, it should give you a little bit of information on that and where to adjust it. Just like I said, again, off the top of the head, it's tough.
Just do your wire search and check it at the board where your wires are coming in, and make sure that you're getting the proper
right,
voltage.
Exactly. As long as you're getting the proper voltage, then you should be good. Let's see how you adjust or text a original Nintendo power supply. So, but test. That's what he's asking, Tim. There it is. So yeah, to test it, all you have to do is just check it at the board. Make sure you're getting 5 and 12, like Tim mentioned. And to adjust it, there is an adjustment. Can't think of where it is off the top of my head, but like I said, manual should say. Let's see, Tim. We have. Let's see. Dave says hello from Play Bideford, it looks like. A closed arcade bar in southwest England. Be back soon. So there you go. We have him there. Retro Ralph's here. Hey guys, thanks for all that you do. You helped me avoid death while discharging my first CRT. Awesome, Retro Ralph. Thank you for that. And obviously, thank you for your videos. He puts out some really good videos as well, Tim.
And we should actually say shout out to all those people who can't write that today.
Yeah, exactly. And so there you go.
Sorry about that, guys. But glad that somebody survived.
At least one person survived, right? Let's see, Josh. Best of luck reopening the arcade, Dave. Obviously, Tim. All the arcade bars that are closed right now, guys. We feel for you. It's tough out there. We hope you guys get to open real soon. So just hate to hear about that, and it's rough, man. Rough. Let's see. YouTube Punk, Crafty Mech People equal Crafty Mech himself. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, Michael Bloom. A new JAMA harness is only $15. So going back to the Double Dragon 2 question, if you just want to rewire the mess, just order you a brand new JAMA harness. And Tim, where does the best JAMA harness come from?
Holland Computers.
That's right, Holland Computers. So make sure you go to Holland Computers, order their JAMA harness. It's the best. And I promise it'll be one of the best purchases you make. You'll clean up all that wiring. It'll work just like new. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up here. It's going fast, Tim. We got a lot of action tonight. Let's see. Danny says, how many grounds on the chassis should you have on a CRT monitor? So how many grounds on the chassis should you have on a CRT monitor, Tim?
Well, technically, you really only need just one or two. But you're not going to hurt by having more. One good ground should do everything just fine if it's all connected. But, I wouldn't go overboard, but if you want to have 2 or 3 that are connected really good in different areas, I have no problem
There
with
you
that.
go. Greg says it's a Wells Garner V1001, Tim, which I think is black and white, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
V1001, I think.
So look
There's
it
a
up.
great troubleshooting black and white monitor FAQ, Tim, and I'll post it in the show notes if I think about it, Greg, that you need to check out. But as far as the ground, Tim, if you're questioning where to put it, you can always put it on the floor ground from the plug. And so a lot of times a cabinet will have an AC filter on it, Tim. We've talked about that before. And so if your cabinet has an AC filter, a lot of times it will have the floor ground on the AC filter. And so you can connect the prong to the floor ground on the AC filter and then discharge it that way if you're unsure where to ground. So, or if there's another grounding prong in your cabinet, any ground prong will do as long as it's, as long as it's properly grounded to something in your cabinet. So, but like I said, some of the, like Miss Pac-Man cabinets have that little metal braided thing that goes through some of the cabinet. You can use that thing even to discharge. There's a lot of options for you. Just make sure that wherever you're hooking it up to is actually grounded to somewhere, and you should be in good shape, Greg.
If it's the 1001, that's definitely a black and white.
Yeah, that's what I was
monitor.
thinking too. I was thinking the 1001 is a black and white. So you definitely want to use the high voltage probe on that. And like I said, I'm not sure about the Crafty Mech because the Crafty Mech's more made for color raster monitors. And so hooking it up is going to be a little bit of a trick, unfortunately. So I wish I knew that off the top of my head, Tim. But I again, never had a Space Invaders, never owned a Space Invaders, been inside of Space Invaders, but never really tried to hook one up to a test pattern generator. So yeah, so you may have to contact the Crafty Mech people just to see if they've got any experience hooking that up. So let's see what else we have here. Delusional. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all staying safe out there. We are. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's see. Okay, Holland Computers. Louis posted the link to the Holland Computers JAMA harness, Tim, so we have that up there. Retro Ralph obviously is answering some questions about some of the videos that he has, and that's pretty cool. So apparently he did a video on him discharging the CRT, Tim, and people thought it was funny. So there you go.
Oh, good.
Let's see. Josh says, almost forgot. I wanted to say that the Louisville Arcade Expo last month was a great time. The event happened just before all the Corona lockdowns got started. So yeah, Louisville obviously is another big festival, Tim, and apparently they snuck it in right before all of the lockdown madness occurred. So I'm glad you had a good time there, Josh. Louisville Arcade Expo is great. Hopefully you got to meet Whitney and Brent there as well, both two of our friends from the Broken Token podcast. But and all these expos are so much fun, Tim. It's just so sad that they're all getting canceled because of all this stuff. So we really feel for organizers and things. So if your show or local show got canceled, the one that you usually go to, make sure that you try to support them by buying some merchandise from their website, or if there are other ways that you can support them, if you have the means, please do. Let's see. And Josh says, I'm going to try to go again next year and would recommend it to anyone who's into arcades or retro consoles. There you go. Louis posted a link to the V1001 manual, Tim, and he said, I don't think you can use the test pattern generator on it. That's what Louis said. So after a little bit of research.
No, I wouldn't think so.
So I was like, I'm not sure how to hook that up. That's a real good question. Let's see. So. Seahorses at Night. Insert Bad Billy Mitchell coronavirus joke here. So there you go. There you go. And Tim, I think we're finally caught up. Golly, guys, you guys are keeping us busy. I love it. I love it. And I'm sorry that you can't see everything, Tim. I'm doing my best to read them as we're going. So typically, Tim would be able to see everything as we're doing this, but obviously in the current state that we're in, he's unable to.
Yeah, I'm sorry for looking down. I'm watching on my phone some too. So to keep
I was about to say, just don't turn up the sound. We might get that little echo effect. But you're kind of watching and viewing at the same time, and being displayed at the same time. There you go. So okay, let us continue on then, Tim. And the next question we have is from Casio, and I'll go ahead and put that up here. Hi, mister. Glad to talk to you. I am not an experienced guy in this job. Arcade machine repair is new to me. So I have just purchased a Miss Pac-Man Galaga machine. I saw your video, took the control panel off, repaired it, but I am not able to fit it back in place. I can't see the latches and the holes to hook them. I am not succeeding in locking it again. In the video, you did not teach us how to do it. Thanks a lot, and congratulations for your nice work. And Tim, you know what? In that video, we did not. So,
right.
so
Yeah, it's easy to unlock, but it is a little tricky if you've never locked one.
Exactly. So, and Tim, you have to do it basically blind because there's no way to really see how to lock it. And so, Tim, what tips do you have as far as locking a control panel back on an arcade cabinet after you have taken it off?
Well, you can go ahead and show the slide if you want to, John, because in the slide shows what I would do. Leave the control panel off and see how the switch, how the locking mechanism works. So with the control panel off, number one, I can see how it's going to work and about where they are. So when I stick my arm up in there blind, I kind of know where they're at. And I can also look at my control panel and see how it attaches. Sometimes there's a little slot or a slit place. Sometimes it just grabs around it. They're all different, and but they work pretty much the same. So if he will just practice with that a little bit before he puts it on there, maybe he'll get it down. But the trick is to reach up with it, put it over, and then come back down with the latch. And maybe we need to shoot a small video on just how to do that. It seems simple, but if you don't know or you've never done it, but if you'll play around with that a little bit, and I think the picture there shows it pretty good too,
Yeah,
John.
it does. And I'll go ahead and read the slide here, Tim, since you got it. And we just say this is correct. We have a video on opening an arcade cabinet, but not one on how to close it back up. Putting the control panel back on can be pretty tricky sometimes, but we do have some tips for that process. Make sure that you open up the latches all the way before placing the control panel back on the cabinet. Tim, we've had this happen before where the latches aren't open all the way. We put the control panel on and like the latch gets stuck underneath the control panel. And so you want to make sure that you open up those latches all the way before you put it back on, just to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And then also try pushing the latch part up against the panel. So after you've opened up the latches, put the panel on, push that latch part kind of upwards, the opposite direction that you'd go to lock it, and see if you can find the hole before trying to push it back down and engage it. Because a lot of times what happens is that you're not catching that hole, and when you don't catch the hole, it's not going to lock. So you have to kind of feel around for that hole and then make sure that that latch part gets up in there so that when you push it down, it engages it properly. This should help it find the hole that the latch is trying to lock into. So
one thing we should say, Jonathan, is a lot of times we see the control panel plexi will slide forward or slide down, and sometimes you're not able to shut it properly. You've got to be able to push that up and get it shut properly by hand before you go in there and latch it. If it's not in position, it won't work very good either.
That is correct. So, yeah, another thing to be aware of. Tim, any other advice that you have here for Casio before we move on?
No, sorry, we didn't even think about shooting that part of the video. Maybe we'll include it the next time that we're shooting and we're having to unlatch.
I was about to say, closing up an arcade cabinet. That's going to be the next video, right? There you go. So, of course, can't shoot anything right now, but but I've got a gigantic green screen. Maybe we can I'll just superimpose you in, Tim. It'll be fine. So there you go. But anyway, hopefully that gives you some good advice on how to lock that back. Yes, the process can be a little tricky, Casio, but again, try some of the tips that we talked about, and hopefully you can get your control panel locked back very quickly. So. Okay, Tim, we got a couple here. Michael says, Billy Mitchell's mullet is as fine as frog hair. All women want him. All men want to be him. So there you go. YouTube Punk says, Retro Ralph has nearly 24,000 subscribers. And that is correct. I mean, Retro Ralph has a great channel, guys. Great content. You guys need to check it out. A lot of arcade-related stuff there. So great content. Retro Ralph, thank you for joining us tonight. We love having you here. And then Danny says, Retro Ralph does have videos. I've watched a lot of them. It is about video games. So again, he has general video games as well, Tim. So pretty cool. Josh says, awesome. If you guys don't get to my question tonight, no problem at all. But I did get that screen test photo sent to the website email account. Okay, so we will look at that, Josh, and we'll get back to you as soon as we get a chance to. So yeah, it's hard for us to check the email on the live show right here, kind of as in a live setting, but we will email you back just as soon as we get around to that question. Delusional says, and Arcade 1-Up. He does cover a lot of Arcade 1-Up stuff, Tim. And speaking of which, I should give an update on my Mortal Kombat Arcade 1-Up cabinet. So I put it together. I actually shot a video of me and my daughter putting it together. That'll probably be on whatever DVD we end up releasing next. And I put it all together, got it all together, and then there's a green line down the screen. And I contacted support, and they said that my warranty had expired by just a little bit. I missed it by that much. And I was very frustrated, and I tried to kindly express my frustration as best I could. And luckily, after several back and forth communications, they are going to replace a part on my game to get it working again. So thank you, Arcade One Up, for taking care of me. I didn't resort to saying anything about who I was or anything, Tim. They basically took it under consideration, decided to replace it. So I'm very thankful for that. And Tim, I mentioned also on the special after show, for those guys who didn't get to see it, I have a Arcade One Up Golden Tee now. And so it's sitting here in the box, and I will be putting it together before the warranty runs out, so I can get parts replaced if I need to. But it has the light up marquee, Tim. It has the stand with it as well. So the riser, has the riser with it. So and obviously, Tim, Golden Tee is a game that you and me both love, and so I'm looking forward to putting it together and playing it. So there you go. But just a little update on the Arcade 1-Up situation around here. So, Tim, I've got a lot of Arcade 1-Ups for somebody who didn't really like them when they, at first, right? So, but I tell you what, they're really cool cabinets, guys. And for the price, you really can't beat them. And you can find them on sale quite a bit. So, cool stuff. Let's see. Seahorses at Night says, have you guys seen Tiger King themed pinball picture? Pretty funny. I did. So apparently there's a Tiger King pinball machine coming out, Tim. Now, for those who have not seen Tiger King, Tim, I think we're going to do an in-depth discussion in the after show, correct? Because
and we might mention I have some inside information.
Inside information. Okay. So they got, man, what a teaser for the after show. Golly, you're going to leave us hanging.
Let's say, guys, if you've watched the show and you know I grew up a third of my life in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, if you want to look that up on a map while we're talking, you'll see why I have some inside information.
There you go. So obviously, Tim, you mentioned Tiger King when we got together for the special after show last Tuesday, and I had heard about it, had not watched it. I am now fully caught up, and so we will be discussing that in the after show. So if you've seen it and you want to talk some Tiger King and hear the exclusive that Tim is going to break, then make sure you stay tuned for the after show for all of your Tiger King information. So,
and all I'll just say is the last game that broke down on me, it was that dang Carol Baskin.
There you go.
She did.
There you go. Absolutely. So, let's see what else we have here. Can anyone relate? I just received some arcade parts in the mail, and it's like Christmas. Absolutely delusional. That's from Delusional's Arcade, Tim. Getting arcade parts in the mail is like one of the best things ever, right?
Well, that's what I thought. During this time, somebody said, what would you be doing if you're still at Chuck E. Cheese? And I said, I would be cleaning and fixing every game. So maybe when they open up, I would love to be a tech during this time with no people around. I would be working on everything.
Absolutely, yeah, because you can get everything working so that when you guys open back up, it'll be just like new, right? There you go.
Yeah.
So Jason says the mail never stops. That is correct. Yeah, and I tell you though, it feels like Christmas. Actually, it felt like Christmas on Wednesday when I got my toilet paper delivered. I'm just saying. So I'm very excited to have my toilet paper. Hopefully, everybody in the live chat also has toilet paper. But that was like Christmas right there, Tim. And I know it's not arcade parts, but sometimes you just got to be excited about something. So.
Yeah, we'll trade arcade parts for some and some Clorox wipes if anybody has.
There you go. So, Danny says, nice, love Golden Tee. So, yeah, I'm excited about it too. Just need to put it together. Michael says, I'm finding the Golden Tee Easter eggs. Finding a dead guy in the woods or Bigfoot is always hilarious. Tim, yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs. I don't know if you've ever noticed that on some of the courses and things. So, a lot of great stuff with Golden Tee. Guys, Golden Tee is such a great game, and it's a game that I did not have a good appreciation for until we started playing it on the main cabinet that we built, Tim. And as we started to play it, we discovered that, it's way more fun than people give it credit for. So,
I agree.
Let's see. YouTube Punk says, when people talk about Tiger King, I keep thinking of the wrestler from Tekken. That's right. King, the character King from Tekken had a tiger mask on, Tim. So that's something to think about for sure. Retro Ralph says, quick restoration question for you guys. What are your feelings on altering the light box of a cabinet to use LED versus fluorescent bulb or light bulb? So here's the deal, Retro Ralph. It really depends on your preference. The Galaga behind me actually has an LED strip in it that has a dial that you can turn up or down the brightness. And I can turn it on here and show you. But so we will put LED strips in them, just depending. The nice thing about LED strips is if they run off DC voltage, then a lot of times you can run them directly off the power supply in the game, which makes it really easy. But another thing is that, if you're using like fluorescent or regular light bulbs, most marquee lights, arcade-wise, have AC wiring going up to them, right, Tim? So if you...
I'm thinking about that police trainer behind you. you could probably see some burn marks and stuff. And if you took that out, it would probably fall
Yeah,
apart.
yeah, that marquee probably would. Yeah, with the light bulb style, Tim, it seems like they do get a lot hotter, and so by using LED style, a lot of times you don't have quite the heat that you would have with the light bulbs. So, in most cases, Retro Ralph, we're going to be in favor of using LED, whether that's a strip or Tim, you've got the LED fluorescent replacements now that you can get that are really nice, and so you can do that. But a lot of times we're going to be in favor of that because the heat will kill. And Tim, you mentioned police trainer. You can see it, but the people at home can't. Typically, we'd have a police trainer over next to the Galaga.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
exactly. They can't see it. Usually they would be able to, but obviously since we have you up on the screen, you're kind of blocking it. But the police trainer is actually a Dig Dug cabinet, Tim. And yes, in that Dig Dug cabinet, it has 2 light bulbs, I believe, and it does. I'm pretty sure that marquee would probably fall apart if I took it out. You're correct. So it's because that heat generated from those light bulbs over time just eats away at these marquees. So yeah, definitely, if you can go LED, definitely do it. If you want to do a strip, more than likely you may have to run some. You may have to run some DC voltage up there, but you can get the replacement fluorescent LEDs that you can put up in there and things that run off the AC power as well. So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to go DC power up there, but, I mean, you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of options, but LED is nice because of the low heat. So, and definitely will do less damage to your marquees. Let's see... and would you consider this a no-no, or should I keep it original? Now, here's the deal. If you're a purist, and there are a lot of purists, Tim, that want to keep things as original as possible, no harm in keeping the fluorescent light with the starter and the fixture in there. I mean, because, fluorescent lights do not get as hot as, like, light bulbs. So if you have a fluorescent fixture in there, you're probably okay. But again, Tim, you can get the bulbs for the fluorescent fixtures that are LED, right?
Yeah, and I think back to our pinball friends. Some of you are listening to tonight. When LED pinball lights first come out, everybody's like, "No, keep it original." And then all of a sudden, everybody's fought the back glasses peeling and stuff. They realize they look super cool. Now everybody is converting all these old pinball games to LED lights. So I think that for the most part, most people have come to grips with it. They run cooler. They look better. They really illuminate, and that's what the idea of the black light, the backlight is, to show off the marquee. And if you can do that better with an LED light and it not damage it like the old bulbs would, why not?
Absolutely. So let us continue on here, Joe. So that was for Retro Ralph. And the next one we have here is from Bruce. The Double Dragon 2 cabinet I acquired also ended up having a Kung Fu Master in it. Do you know where I'd be able to find the wiring diagrams for Kung Fu Master? The harnesses were all together. And if you just look up Kung Fu Master pinouts, I'm sure that you will find them. And Louie will probably give you a link to that. But just look for the pinouts for Kung Fu Master, and that should give you what you're looking for there, Bruce. So... let's see. Jason says, I'll trade 4 rolls of toilet paper for a working gyros board set. There you go, Tim. So we're getting some bartering there. Let's see. Exactly, 4 rolls. So...
I don't know. How big a roll are we talking?
Is it a mega roll?
Mega rolls?
Good point, Tim.
And is it the Dollar General cheap kind? I kind of like Continental.
There you go. I'm a Charmin guy. Charmin Soft, Tim. Charmin Soft.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So if you got Charmin Soft, that's a premium to me. But anyway, so Delusional also said he likes to keep it original, but he has no problems with LEDs. And I think most of us are in that boat, Tim. Original's fine. If it works, just keep the original in there. But, put a LED one in there, and it's fine too. So totally up to you. Let's see. Seahorses at Night. I'll do 6 toilet paper rolls for a gyros board set. Tim, we've got bidding going on in the live chat.
Got bidding going on.
Delusional says, I have a working gyros board set, but I don't think it's for sale, trade, or trade. Sorry, I have plans for it. So there you go. Retro Ralph says, awesome. Thanks. Appreciate the feedback. Danny says... that and LEDs last a lot longer. They do typically. So we found that LEDs will last a lot longer if it's good quality, Tim. But, they used to promise on the light bulbs that they would last 20 or 30 years. And I don't think I haven't gotten nearly that out of them. The LEDs themselves last that long. The LED boards typically do not. And that's the key. So, the LEDs themselves, yes, will last that long. But the boards usually die faster than the LEDs themselves. So, let's see... Delusional says Walmart has $8 ones that work perfectly. Yes, they do. Walmart has some. There's one, Tim, that we recommend on Amazon that's super cheap. I can't remember, $11 or something like that if you don't want to go to Walmart. But there's a lot of different ones that you can get LED strip wise that work great. Let's see. You need the right LEDs to make a pinball pop. That is correct. So, Tim, for like pinball machines, there's a lot of different LEDs that you can get. But the light kits that you buy for your games typically have like really good quality LEDs depending on where you get them from. So, obviously, Tim, we have a lot of pinball retailers on our resources page. So if you check out arcaderepairtips.com/resources, you can see some of the people who we like Pinball Life, Tim, who sells LED kits for games. And typically now, the LED kits are very good. In the past, they've had some problems with quality and things, but typically when you buy one now, it's pretty much ready to go. So... Greg says, yep, I use the Walmart ones on everything. Louis posted the Kung Fu Master pinouts for us, Tim, which is really great. Michael says, I converted my firepower to LED, and as good as it looked before, it really pops now. It's downright gorgeous. Yeah, I need to do that on my games, Tim. I need to do LED. But, when all the lights are working, I'm too lazy to put LEDs in it. So I'm going to wait till like 3 or 4 bulbs go out, then I'll put some in it. So,
right.
Let's see. Oh, Greg says 1 full Costco package for the gyrus board and a 16-ounce hand sanitizer. Tim, I think we have a winner right there. So, Greg, gyrus board set coming your way, I guess. I don't know who promised that. It wasn't us, but somebody did. So there you go. John says, I've noticed the fluorescent light fades the marquee after time. Fluorescent, Tim, I haven't noticed that as much on, but definitely with the light bulb style, we definitely have noticed that. Fluorescents seem to be okay for the most part, but definitely the light bulb style definitely damage big time. So Jason says LED strips under the Galaxy bezel sides really lights up the art. Yeah, or Galaga, he says on the Galaga. Yeah, I mean, man, this thing is super bright back here, right, Tim? I think these are bright white. This isn't soft white on this, and I could turn it on, but like I said, it'll blind. It kind of blows out the picture, so I'm hesitant to do that. But very bright when you put it in there for sure. So. Ooh, okay, Tim, I think we're caught up.
Okay.
We only have one more slide here, Tim, but it's our questions from YouTube slide. It has 3 different questions on it. So I'm going to throw this up here, and we're going to rapid fire them like we normally do at this point in the show. So here we go. The first one is from Funky, Tim, and that was the username Funky. He says, do you have any idea where the adjustment knobs would usually be on a Frogger cocktail monitor? Then we have Elliot, who says, I have a 3-combo game, Centipede, Millipede, and Missile Command. I can't get it to work with coins. I open the door to flip the thin wire to activate the switch, and it still doesn't work. Any ideas? Thanks. And then we have Philip, who says, I have a pole position that only lets me get half a screen. Every time I adjust it to full, it fuzzes out. What do you recommend? Game plays fine, just that half the screen. So, Tim, 3 questions here. Let's take them one at a time. The first one we have here is from Funky, and he says, do you have any idea where the adjustment knobs would usually be on a Frogger cocktail monitor? So let's start with that.
Well, it always depends on the type of monitor, and it can have many different times. Most of them are on the back of the chassis. There'll be a couple on the neck board. It really depends on the monitor.
There you go. Okay, so on Elliot, Tim, we have he has a 3-combo game, Tim, which I think you're very familiar with, the Team Play Centipede, Millipede, and Missile Command cabinet. He can't get to work with coins. He's flipping the coin switch, and it's not coining up. What do you think's going on?
Well, you got to make sure that it's wired correctly and that there is a ground wire and your coin wires going to your switches. But a lot of times, if one of those switches gets stuck, the game it knows that it won't just give 1,000 credits or something. It will not coin up at all. So I would check the wiring, and I would also check to make sure that a switch is not stuck.
Absolutely. And then, Tim, we have Philip with the pole position that only gets half a screen. And when he tries to adjust it to full, it fuzzes out. What do you recommend for him?
Well, I think it's kind of like what we talked about earlier with the NBA Jam, that it probably is starting to need a cap kit. It probably is best way to solve
Sweet.
that.
Okay, I think we got all those in just a rapid fire way, Tim. So I'm going to put the outline scene up here. So the first one we had was from Funky Tim, and like you said, it depends on the monitor. Some have them on the back, but some have them on a breakout board, Tim, that contains the adjustments. And Tim, I have a breakout board here for a K7000, as you can see. And so if your monitor does have a breakout board, Tim, there'll typically be a ribbon cable or something like that that runs from the chassis to that breakout board. So what you may do is just kind of go around your chassis to see if you see any kind of ribbon or grouping of wires that may go out to a breakout board, and follow that down to see if you can find it. So like I said, it just depends on the monitor. Like Tim mentioned, it could be on the back of the chassis, or it could actually be on that breakout board. But
I think that breakout board be inside the coin
Typically,
door,
yeah,
in
exactly.
weird
We've seen
places.
it right next to the control panel. A lot of different places on that. So the easiest thing to do is just to trace it down from the chassis to see if you can find it from there. So on Elliot's question, make sure that the coin switches are wired up correctly, like you mentioned, Tim. Also, there may be a way to put the game on free play if you don't care about putting coins in it. Now, Tim, the wiring is so important here because we've seen a bunch of times where opening and closing the coin door actually does damage to the wires over time. So if you've got a game that's from the 80s and the operator has constantly opened and closed, open and closed, open and closed, well, sometimes those wires will get pinched in the door. And when that happens, Tim, it actually damages the wiring, which means that it may not be making the same connection that it used to when it was new. And so that's why we're going to stress a wiring issue here, Elliot. Make sure that they're wired up correctly. And Tim, on the screen, I know you can't see it, but I've got just the JAMA pinouts there that have the location of those coin wires, so that way he can find them. But if you go to arcaderepairtips.com/JAMA.html, you can find a full JAMA pinout that will help you out with that as well, Elliot. So you may try that, and it should work. Because I'm pretty sure, Tim, that Team Play cabinet is a JAMA cabinet, correct?
Yeah.
There you go. Right, exactly. So there you go. So I mean that should do it. And then Tim, obviously Philip has a squished pole position, and like you mentioned, sounds very similar to the NBA Jam. Try a cap kit on it, see if it helps the issue. If it doesn't, it may be in the power supply section of the board. So you may need to check your B plus voltage, make sure that is good. Check the power supply section of your chassis and make sure that everything is making a good connection. So there you go. I think we covered all that, Tim. And Louis said Frogger doesn't have a free play setting. And Elliot's question was actually on the team play. I think he was getting that one and Funky's question mixed up. Funky's question was on the Frogger. Elliot's question was on the team play, Centipede, Millipede, and Missile Command. So there you go. But I think we covered all those. Do you have anything to add on any of those questions, Tim, before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Think we covered it pretty well? Sounds
Yeah.
good. So we'll continue to go on from here, Tim. Louis says, pole position, may the video game gods have mercy on your soul. Yes. Typically, we're talking about the board set on that one, but obviously monitor problems too sometimes. Monitor problems are a whole lot easier than board problems on pole position, thankfully. So.
Yeah, just install about 10 fans. It'll
There you
work
go.
fine.
Delusionals Arcade. Guys, what's your favorite monitor chassis to work on, and what is your worst? So, Tim, I think I know your worst. I think it's a 6-letter word called Cortec. Is that right?
Yeah, I do not like Cortec monitors. Similarly, Geo 7 is probably the easiest and has so much information about it. Any Wells Gardner I like, but I do not like
Yeah, I was about to
Cortec.
say, I know Tim pretty well, and I know that Cortec monitors are probably his worst. So definitely Cortec. And Greg said Geo 7 the best. Let's see, Machita or a close second, Cortec worst. There you go. So Cortec definitely worst. I think we can all agree on that. I'd like to get some of our monitor repair guys and see what theirs are, like Paul Jure. I'd love to see like what he thinks is the best and the worst. Because like Michael, I'd be curious to hear Michael's on that as well. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure Michael is not a big Cortec fan either, but he may differ on what his favorite is. I have a feeling. So, so yeah. How about that's a great question to throw just to the chat as a whole. If you guys have done a lot of monitor repair or maybe just a little bit, what is your favorite monitor chassis to work on? What is your worst monitor chassis to work on? Now you mentioned Wells Gardner, Tim. I'm gonna add an exception for the D9200. I'm not a big fan of that monitor. I can work on them. We can get them working a lot of times, but it is not my favorite to work on. It is a great monitor though. It's good stuff. Delusional says he does not like he likes the K7000, which the K7000 series is super great. Easy to work on. He hates the 4600. It looks like the 4600, the card system. It's not terrible. So I mean, 4600s are okay for me. Like I said, I'd much rather work on a 4600 than a Cortec. So any day of the week. But everybody's different. Just depends on who you are. So. Josh B says, "Oh, mine's a Cortec. I hope it holds out for a long time." Look, you can fix Cortec monitors. They're just a little bit more of a hassle. Just because, Tim, you mentioned the documentation on them is sometimes not the best. Is that a good way to say it? So documentation is kind of tough to find. There is some more information than there used to be. Thankfully, there are more resources for Cortex than there used to be, but it's still tough to find information on Cortex if you're looking for it. So.
I would just say this: if it goes out, I'm going to say this in my best Joe Exotic voice. just take it out and blow it up.
There you go. You're gonna strap some tannerite to it, right?
Good monitor just to have around so you can blow stuff
There you go,
up.
tannerite, right? There you go. So just strap some explosives to it and blow it up. There we go. Nanano, that's another one that says is not my favorite. That's from John. Yeah, that's another one on our blacklist, right? So Nanano, Cortec, tomato.
You know, as a newbie, I would have thought the Sanyo Easy monitor, but you know, the more you work on them, the better it seems like that it works. Yeah. You know, you getting this on?
Yeah, I got you. Still, I got you. Let's see. Delusional says it takes longer to take a 4600 apart than to cap it. That is true, but I mean, once you have it apart, you know, it's easy to work on. You know, I mean, so that's the nice thing. Greg says Cortec has like 70 plus caps, and then it's always something else like a burned transistor. Exactly. Right. So tough stuff. But anyway. Well, Tim, that question kind of leads into our arcade discussion question. We're not having a debate. Tim, this is not a time for debate tonight. And so we're not going to do a debate. We will do a discussion. But before we get to the discussion, why don't we tell people about your tech tip for this month? So I'm going to let you take it from here. I will read the title here since you can't see it. But Tim's tech tip this month is Arcade Coindoor lock replacement adds a credit button without the need to drill a hole in your game. So Tim, I put up some pictures here for people to see this. I'm going to let you take it from here.
Well, occasionally I just run across stuff that I think is cool. Kind of like the breaker fuse testers that we ordered. And I ran across this not too long ago, and I just thought, you know, we get a lot of questions about making a game free play or how to coin it up without doing a lot of damage to your cabinet. And I just thought this was kind of interesting. You got the slide
I
up
do,
now,
so
John?
they can see the slide, Tim.
Okay, good. So what it is it works with midway coin doors. It'll basically will work with most coin doors, I'll tell you that much. You put this in there where the hole goes. It still locks it and allows you to hook that up to your coin switches, and then you can just add credits as you want to by hitting the button, or as my father-in-law used to call it, the sneaky switch. You kind of got a sneaky switch there that you can hit. So anyway, I just thought that, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. And we have mentioned before adding a button as one of those methods. And I just think this is a way you don't have to drill a hole. You just take the lock out and you put this in there, and then you wire it up, and you've got free play basically on several games that don't have a free play option.
Yeah, and Tim, I saw this, and of course you need a 3D printer, Tim, to print these out if you have a buddy or something. Or Tim, you can go to your local library, or Tim, the school that my daughter goes to actually has a 3D printer for them to work with, which is pretty cool. So, but you will need a 3D printer for this, but you can actually see, if you go to the link that's down below, you can actually see that there's a 30 millimeter bolt, Tim, and a 50 millimeter bolt.
Yeah.
So, and it says that the 30 millimeter is really good for Bally Midway games, and that the 50 is really good for pinball. But a really easy way to put a coin up button on your arcade cabinet without having to drill into the cabinet, without having to add a hole somewhere, and it locks the game, Tim. It actually has like a little latch that will lock the coin door in place. And you know, if you're doing this for home use, Tim, I think it's a really cool idea, and I'm with you. So you know, again, if you have a 3D printer, you have a buddy that has a 3D printer, go to thingiverse.com/thing:2085416, and you'll be able to see this project and print one out yourself. So I think it's pretty cool, Tim. I was with you. When you sent it to me, I was like, man, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And you will need the switch too, Tim. So even after you 3D print everything, you'll need the switch. The switch is, he has a link to the Amazon product for it on that page, so you can do that. Delusional says he uses Easy Coin Up, which is also really cool, the little quarter looking thing. That's cool as well. You can use that. But this is also a cool way, Tim. I think any way that you can kind of put a credit button without having to drill into your cabinet, I think is pretty cool. So thanks for bringing us the tech tip for tonight. That's pretty awesome, Tim. So and I don't I have access to a 3D printer, so I might try to print this out at some point, but I do not have one here at the house, and right now getting out of the house is a little bit of a trick, right? So we may have to wait a little bit, or maybe I'll just buy a 3D printer. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but really cool stuff, Tim. Thank you so much for that. Now, Tim, I mentioned, again, no arcade debate tonight, and we've been in our windows the whole night, unlike a regular show where we'd be side by side. And so this is not a time for us to debate, Tim. I feel like this is a time for us to discuss, and M. Cassiano, Tim, sent in a good question that I felt like was in need of discussion and probably something that the live chat could also chime in. And this is the question. He says, "Hey guys, I just started watching you guys and I appreciate the knowledge. I want to start restoring old cabinets. How did you guys go about obtaining your first cabinets?" So, Tim, why don't you go ahead and give us a story about how you got your first cabinets? I'll give the story about how I got my first cabinets, and then maybe we'll have some more people chime in and we can give some more tips from there.
The very first cabinet I ever got was in a local thrift shop, and I knew that it was a pole position. And but after, I would say, I really wasn't searching for cabinets. Of course, we went to auctions. A lot of times we would get them that way. But one of the best things and this would be my biggest advice, was we simply made an easy business card that just says, "I repair arcade and video and pinball games. If you know of anyone for sale, give me a call." And we would pass these out a lot of times, like we would go to a trade show or wherever we were and pass them out to our friends and stuff. I have probably gotten more games back in the day when they were seemed like they were everywhere. We were getting games and getting a lot of calls for that. Now, a lot of them wanted high dollar, but a lot of them were either free or really cheap, or they were glad to get rid of them, those type of things. So that's probably one way that I had the most luck. And until we were able to, just by word of mouth, just letting people know I collect these things, and I would like, of course, we didn't have as much social media back in those days, but I can imagine the same thing would be today that we used to do, like on Craigslist. You could put an ad on Facebook Marketplace. I buy old games. It's a hobby. I'm not trying to make money off of it, but if you have some, I think that probably would be a good method to do that today.
Yeah, and for me, Tim, obviously, of course, the first game I got, you actually gave me from helping you work on games. So, I mean, sometimes you can find somebody who has a lot of arcade games. You find an old operator or somebody like that who needs help working on them, and you just want to do some free labor for a while until they give you one. That's a good way to do it, too. But, Tim, I think you nailed it with Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. And, Tim, I'm going to throw in some apps like OfferUp, 5 Miles, so Let Go, some of those apps as well that you can get that will allow you to search like for local for sale items in your area. eBay sometimes, Tim, we've bought games off eBay before that people just listed them as for auction and nobody wanted to pick them up, and we got them for fairly cheap because of that. And so even eBay sometimes will have what you're looking for. Delusional said Facebook Marketplace is probably one of the better places to find them now. But Tim, I mean, any kind of for sale website is going to be really good. Like we said, Craigslist, 5 Miles, Let Go, OfferUp, any of those should help you find some arcade games in your area. Tim, the market has been high for arcade games for a while, and so you may pay a lot even for a broken game at first. And when I say a lot, it may be upwards of $300, just depending on the game. But the thing is, the market's high, so if you do get it working, you can also probably sell it for more than what you paid for it. So that's something to think of. But here's the deal, Tim. We mentioned earlier in the show, somebody brought up the question that do you think we're going to see some arcades being dumped on the market? I think we're going to see some because, some arcade bars and things, unfortunately, are getting rid of some extra inventory to help them stay afloat. So if you want to check in with your local arcade bar, Tim, I know that Free Play here in town and some of the other ones are selling off some games in order to help with some of the expenses that they're incurring. So you may want to contact right now arcade bars and different arcade establishments that are closed to see if they will sell you one of their games. So, because I know a lot of places are putting them up for sale.
One thing that he asked specifically for was just cabinets. Right. And I know every operator from every town usually has cabinets just sitting in a warehouse. And a lot of times I have offered to do repairs for them. Not long ago, I had one of them tell me that he was now in the ATM business, and I got him hooked up with a business that would let him put an ATM machine in, and he was like, "What can I do for you?" And I don't know why, I just kind of said, "Well, maybe you got an old arcade cabinet that you wouldn't mind getting rid of. I really like the Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man style." And he said, "Sure." And it wasn't long. He said, "Are you going to be home?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm bringing you over a cabinet." And you might remember this, John. It was a nice Miss Pac Galaga combo cabinet, solid cabinet, great shape. It actually had a board in it. It didn't have a monitor, but it's over at our friend Mike's house right now. He's been doing a little bit of cabinet repair on it because it had those bars across it, that kept the end of theft bars out. But I got a free cabinet just for basically helping him, hooking him up with another guy I know that would let him put an ATM. So, and other collectors. Gosh, we've unloaded cabinets and we always like to find people who are new to the hobby or hungry for those games to restore them. A lot of times, other collectors have always been a great source.
Absolutely. Let's see what we got in the chat here, Tim. We've got, let's see, I got mine on Facebook Marketplace. This is from Josh. Previous owner had bought it a couple years ago at an auction. Rexer Show says, what do you think of the auctions that strictly do arcade gaming? Love them. In fact, our friend David runs one. We're going to give him a plug, AmericanAmusementAuctions.com, Tim. So if you're looking for auctions in your area, you might try AmericanAmusementAuctions.com. Auction game sales. Tim does game sales. Captain's Warehouse out in California does auctions. Our friend Ryan Berger is involved in some auctions as well, right, Tim? So, I mean, there's a lot of arcade auctions there. Now, arcade auctions, the only thing you have to keep in mind is you're going to pay a premium on top of whatever you win it for, right, Tim?
Right. And, we always used to stick around and help people load. And we always know people that bought too much and couldn't get them in. We've got a lot of free games just by sticking around and helping other people load. They give us a cabinet or something they couldn't get on their truck.
And the day after the auction, make sure you visit the dumpster.
Yeah. Go by the dumpster.
Yeah, because there'll be something in there. I can almost guarantee you. Some people will not be able to haul everything that they buy. It happens all the time. So let's see what else we have here. Paper Clown says, I can't believe this much time has passed. 2000's Delusional Arcade did amazing themes for the front end 3D Arcade. 3D Arcade was a really cool front end, Tim. Good stuff. And Delusional Arcade says, my Maximus Arcade front end days, LOL. So there you go. Paper Clown says, Maximus. Again, Maximus is a front end for MAME. Good stuff, guys. Greg says, the auctions can be hit or miss. Right now might be more hit as operators are scaling back. Very good point, Greg. So may want to hit up the auctions pretty soon. Danny says, I know some arcade cabinets are harder to find than others, though I got a Smash TV in good condition and everyone is trying to buy. So yeah, a lot of times you can find what you're looking for. Just hold out, have some patience, and wait for the right deal to come along. Delusional's Arcade, a few months ago, I sold my NBA Jam cabinet. Let's see, the guy that picked it up recognized my name and remembered me from my Maximus Arcade days. So they're talking, apparently Delusional used to be into Maximus Arcade, so there you go. Cool stuff, guys. So anyway, auctions are a good place too, Tim, but I think, you really want to try some of these for sale apps and Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and of course, make sure that you also check out local auctions if they're in your area. So anything else, Tim?
No, I have literally posted that I was interested and found games in my neighborhood just that I didn't even know people had.
There you go. So, good stuff. But hopefully we answered M. Cassiano's question, and good luck trying to find that first arcade cabinet. Good stuff, guys. Well, Tim, let's go ahead and get into some news and stuff that's going on. And, Tim, we mentioned this earlier in the show, and you've got the shirt to prove it, but the 2020 Texas Pinball Festival, scheduled for March 27th through 29th this past weekend, was canceled due to COVID-19. And Tim, there's a post about it. You can go to the Facebook page there to see it. This decision was not an easy one to make, and we know that many of you are disappointed as we are. We promise to do everything we can to save the Texas Pinball Festival. We want to thank everyone that stood by us, offering their help and support. You don't know how much that means to us. We will be in touch. Paul, Kim, and Ed. And Tim, we know Paul, Kim, and Ed, and they are very good people that put a lot of work into the Texas Pinball Festival. So if you can support them, please do that by going to texaspinball.com/TPF/store and buy something. Tim, they've got the little grab bags like what you see here. I mentioned earlier that Louis got one of these grab bags, and so he actually posted a picture of it. So you can do that, or you can buy a T-shirt. Tim, I'm going to throw you back up here so you can show everybody your nice come and flip it T-shirt. There it is. So you can get one of those, like what Tim has. It has Texas Pinball on the back, right? Yeah. So there we go. I'm gonna turn around real quick for us. There it is. So Texas Pinball right there. It's got the official logo of the Texas Pinball Festival. But guys, support not just the Texas Pinball Festival, but any festival that's having to close down because of this. Because, Tim, they're depending on that admission income to keep the show running. And when you don't get that income, obviously it puts them in a tight financial spot.
They're not trying to make money. They're just trying to break even most of the time. And a lot of times they don't even do that. They do it for the love. So when you have zero income, not only are you not breaking even, you're losing your own personal money many times, especially without any big sponsors and stuff like that. A lot of these guys, their own personal money that they're putting into it. So, if we can help them recoup some of that back, it would be great.
Absolutely. Paper Clown says, this podcast style is wonderful. I hope you guys can ask Todd from TNT Amusements on a future episode. Tim, we've talked about that, haven't we?
Oh,
yeah, so we might have to get Todd on sometime. We really like Todd. Tim, obviously, you've got a pretty good relationship with him, and so maybe at some point we can get him on the show. Right now, I'm struggling to have one person on the show. We may have to wait until Tim comes back here so we can get another one on. So,
But I think that this was part of the overall, guys, is that if one day, if we could get this working good, which it sounds like it is, that we can be together there and do this, and somebody else can be our guest. I know several people that I would love to ask, and good friends and stuff that would be great to be on here.
Delusionals Arcade mentions the ZapCon 8 in Arizona was canceled as well. So if you guys want to go to their website, maybe buy some of their merchandise and help them out, that'd be great. Danny says, having a good friend like I have that has at least 50 arcades and works on them and trades them a lot. That's a good way to get an arcade game, right, Tim? Absolutely. So having somebody who's in the business for sure. Now, Tim, obviously the Texas Pinball Festival did not happen, like we just mentioned, but there have been some announcements of some new pinball machines. And so we're going to first talk about Hot Wheels by American Pinball. Now, Tim, have you seen this cabinet yet? What do you think of it?
Oh, I think it's good. I think it's going to be a cool theme. Great theme, by the way. But I think it's a good pinball.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this link up here for people who want to see it. And this is from Pinball News, Tim. Love pinballnews.com, guys. Great information there. They really go in depth on a lot of this stuff. But Hot Wheels by American Pinball, it's got kind of the same cabinet shape as some of their other games, Tim, like Houdini. But Hot Wheels is a 2-flipper standard width game, apparently without any unique or innovative playfield assemblies. This is expected to keep the cost of the game down with an anticipated retail price of around $6,200 to $6,400, which, Tim, right now in the pinball space is actually pretty cheap. And now, you never know what's going to happen here with the COVID-19. Obviously, I don't think they're selling a lot of pinball machines now, so I would expect the prices are going to come down. Tim, you and me have a good friend, Craig Hassel, that works at the distributor that we buy a lot of games from. And he mentioned today, I know, on Facebook that they're running some big specials to move some stuff out. And so if you're looking to buy a pinball machine, Tim, this may be the time to do it. So, good stuff. But anyway, this game's LCD monitor is offset from the center. The artwork does help justify its position to the left, but it's still an unusual placement. And Tim, the biggest gripe I heard from people who are talking about this game is the offset LCD screen. But to be honest with you, I think it's cool. What do you think?
Yeah. I thought it was
exactly.
Great.
I had no problem with it, but man, some of the pinball people were just really ripping this game for an offset LCD, and I'm like, the artwork looks cool. It looks like it's kind of designed like that to me. I mean, it really does look nice. So I mean, it just depends, I guess, on who you are. But to me, I thought it looked good. The playfield, and you guys can see some pictures at pinballnews.com at this URL that we have on the screen here. The playfield to me was a little bare looking, but you got to remember this is probably more, for American Pinball, more of a budget game. So you're not going to have quite the toys that you had on some of their other games. But to me, it looked like fun. I look forward to playing it. Would have gotten to play it at the Texas Pinball Festival probably, but obviously that's not going to happen, Tim. So it is what it is. But anyway, it still looks cool to me. What are your first impressions just based on what you've seen?
Oh, yeah. I think that just, you never know till you really play it. Because all you're looking at is a theme. I love the theme. I love the artwork and stuff. So just going to have to really play it to give a full fledged opinion. But overall, it's pretty positive right now.
Absolutely. Same here, Tim. So I look forward to playing it. Hopefully we'll get a chance to play it at, if not Texas Pinball Festival, Tim. Still kind of want to go to the Hag this year, so maybe we'll try to do that. Or maybe we'll have to make a trip to our distributor in Dallas and see how they're doing. So one or the other, we'll figure it out. Delusional's heading out, so thanks for joining us tonight, Delusional. And then Michael says someone needs to make a Sesame Street pinball table like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cartoon that they had on the show. So there you go.
Yeah, then you can homeschool your kids right now with it. Go play pinball.
Exactly. One of the things, I don't know if you saw the April Fool's joke, but I think it was, I don't know if it was Pinball News or I think it was maybe Pinball Magazine. They put that Stern was going to do a frozen pinball machine. Obviously, it was an April Fool's joke, but you know, to be honest with you, I think my daughter would probably really dig that. So
yeah,
but
Tiger King is getting my
money. So, but I'm looking forward to playing Hot Wheels. Tim, there's a lot of games that I haven't gotten to play in a while just because, you know, we haven't really been to shows or anything, and we missed the Texas Pinball Festival. So I'm really hoping I get to play Hot Wheels as well as this next title, Heist. Now, Tim, have you seen Heist? It's basically the new kit game on the Multimorphic P3 platform. Have you seen it?
You know, when you sent me the outline was the first I'd heard of it, so I really don't know much about it except for what I read that article that I thought was pretty cool.
It actually, I mean, I think the theme is really neat, and I'll read this here for everybody. It says, Multimorphic has announced Heist, their third full-featured game, complete with a dedicated upper playfield module and a comprehensive gameplay package. The action takes place in Ocean City, where a crack team of experts work together to take down the king of the city, Frank Bigelow, aka Mr. Big. Existing P3 owners can add Heist to their system for $27.50. So, Tim, if you've already invested in the P3 platform, like we know a lot of people have, then you can get this for an additional $27.50, which is less than half of what a new pinball machine would cost you. And you basically get a whole new game. Now, again, the P3 platform is more expensive than a traditional pinball machine would be, but with these kits, that's really where they make up the value, right? Yeah. And Tim, you know, from the description, it sounds like, you know, you're trying to pull off this heist, and you have to unlock different people who have different skills, which is really neat. So it kind of reminds me, you know, I have X-Men, Tim, and on X-Men, you have to kind of do the same thing. You have to unlock all the X-Men, right? And so on this, it's kind of the same thing. You're trying to pull off this major heist, and you're unlocking the different people that you need to pull it off. And so I always like that concept for a pinball machine because it makes sense. It's easy to understand, and it's easy to tell the player where the targets are. So, but so did you get to read the article at all? And what do you think of it just after seeing it?
Well, I think we like anything from Multimorphic, and it sounds like, you know, they keep being more creative with different ways and stuff. So if I definitely had the P3 game, I would definitely want to invest in it.
Yeah, and you know, there's really no reason not to invest in these kits. I mean, I know $27.50 is not cheap, okay? But if you're a pinball fan and you already have a P3, I mean, you're getting this for the fraction of what a brand new machine would cost you, like a brand new pinball machine as a whole. So, I mean, it really makes sense for you to go ahead and invest in this. And the theme looks great. The playfield looks really neat, the little back playfield, the upper playfield that they're going to be shipping with it. And so I think for a lot of people, this is going to be a must-have for their P3 platform system. So, and we want to wish Jerry and his team the best, and just love seeing them crank out stuff out of Austin there, Tim. Great stuff here. And then, Tim, we have Betson Enterprises releases information about resources for COVID-19 that could help your business during this difficult time. Tim, you sent me this article, and we posted it on our Facebook page, but we also wanted to mention it here. Tim, we know that we have a lot of people who may own FECs, Family Entertainment Centers, who may have financial commitments to Betson because maybe they're trying to pay off their games or whatever the case may be. Betson Enterprises has released information about the resources for COVID-19 that could help your business. This includes contacting their financial services department if you need assistance. You can also email them at credit@betson.com. And so, Tim, I think they're going to help a lot of people who may need some relief during this time. Obviously, Tim, a lot of FECs are not open due to the restrictions placed on them by either a county, city, state government, whatever the case may be. And so hopefully if you contact Betson, they can help you out with maybe some of the expenses that you have, maybe put your loan on hold or whatever the case may be. But we do encourage that you call Betson if you're in that boat, so that way you can get help. Tim, another thing we want to mention is that obviously they've released these loans from the Small Business Administration. If you call your local bank, you can get basically an almost interest-free loan of quite a bit of money to help you stay afloat during this time if you own your own business. So we want to encourage you that if you're in a difficult situation and you need some help, you may contact your local bank to see about getting one of these very low interest SBA loans for your business to help you stay afloat. So, Tim, anything else you want to mention on that?
No, I just, like I said, if we find out any other information, we'll try to post as quick as we can.
Yeah, and Betson, of course, Tim, I know that a lot of places finance their games through Betson because Betson provides new games for different family entertainment centers. And so if you're in the boat, definitely contact them and see if they can help you out in some way. That may be not making payments for a while. That may be refinancing your loan. I don't know exactly what all that's going to entail, but I'm sure they're going to work with you because they understand, Tim, just like we all understand, that this is a very unique time in our history and that you may need a little help if your business isn't open. So make sure that you contact them. Betson.com, right, Tim? And then, of course, credit at Betson.com if you want to contact the financial services department. Okay, Tim. Well, I think that about does it as far as the discussion and news section of our stuff. So, Tim, I do have our usual reminders here, but I do want to get to some live chat stuff before we continue on. Danny says, "Have you guys ever had too many arcade projects at once?" And I would say all the time.
I would say that. Let's see, when did I start collecting? So it's been about 25, 30
years
I know.
Now. Yeah, I mean,
I've had too many projects,
when you have kids and, you don't have a whole lot of time to work on games. I mean, it is what it is. We're always busy around here. We're always doing stuff. So I have a project list of stuff I want to get done. Just doesn't get done very often. And Tim, really, if something's working pretty well, I'm going to leave it alone. If it stops working altogether, it's probably when it's going to get the attention. So, I mean, just because of the limited time. But always have arcade repairs on our plate at all times. Always have too many because the time is always short around here, so totally understand that all the time. But here's the nice thing, Tim, about arcade projects is they'll wait on you. So you get around to them in your time. So absolutely. Michael says, "I rebuilt a Firepower and a KI2 simultaneously. I thought I'd have one fixed, moved to the other, and then rinse and repeat. Took me a year to get both perfect." Yeah, sometimes you have to move back and forth, Tim, because what happens is that you fix something on this project, something else goes wrong, you get frustrated with it, you need to move to something else to show that you can get some success, and you kind of move back and forth until you get it all fixed. So
that's it.
Let's see what else. Oh, Louis posted a link to the smallbusinessadministration.gov. For those people who may need it. This is very important, Tim, because there are a lot of people do not, and this is why I encourage people, Tim, do not hesitate to get these loans if you need them. So, because, I mean, if you need them, you need them. And, there's no shame in taking a loan right now, even if you've never had a loan before, there's no shame in taking it right now because it can help you stay afloat. And, if you've got a good business, then you're going to pay it back. And the interest rate is low, 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 low. So take advantage of this while you can, for sure. Let's see. John says it would be cool to have Arcade Jason as a guest on your show one day. I'd love to have more guests on our show. And hopefully we can, John, at some point. Obviously the Skype seems to be working pretty well with Tim. So hopefully at some point when Tim joins me back in here, we can have another guest on the line that we can talk to. But I don't know about trying this with multiple guests. We may have to try that off air and see how it works before we go live with it. So, okay, Tim, I think we are caught up. So let us go ahead and move to our final bit of announcements here. And the first one, of course, is that we want your arcade-related videos. Want some free advertising for your YouTube channel? We're looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send a link of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put in a plug-in for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. And Tim, obviously we started doing this because when YouTube started to demonetize channels that did not meet their new threshold, we were trying to help those people so they could get monetized again. So that was a big deal. But again, if you guys want that, please let us know. I think Tim is texting over there. I see you, Tim. So
yeah, I'm trying to...
I understand. We're keeping going. I got you, bud. I'll hold you up. Here we go. So we have our contact information, guys. You guys can send your questions into questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. If you put live show in the subject, you'll get it mentioned here on the show. Otherwise, we'll try to get around to it whenever we get some time. But again, that's questions@arcaderepairtips.com. We also have our YouTube page, and if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, you're already here, but you may be listening to this on the podcast feed, and if you are, you can visit youtube.arcaderepairtips.com to see the YouTube version of this show and to see the after show. Tim, we don't put the after show on the podcast feed, so if you want the after show with all of the talk of the Tiger King, make sure that you go to our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. And of course, comments from the last live show will be covered on the next episode. Tim, I think we had one or two that were left on the last live show that we got to this month. So great stuff. And Tim, we have the podcast, of course, and that's with Eric and Rusty. And Tim, of course, their arcade is shut down right now too, and so I'm hoping at some point they'll be able to get around to a new podcast episode. But if you guys want to email Eric and Rusty, go ahead and do that at podcast@arcaderepairtips.com, podcast@arcaderepairtips.com, and make sure you subscribe at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com or stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com so you can listen to their regular episodes. And Tim, of course, we also put the live show audio up there as well, not the after show, but the actual live show. So if you want to hear that, you can go there. And Tim, I like to mention too that we are on Spotify. So if you want to listen to us on Spotify, make sure you do a search for Arcade Repair Tips. You will find us, and you can subscribe there as well. Tim, Spotify is my music platform of choice. It's not actually my podcast platform, but it is my music platform of choice. And so some people do podcasts there. If you do, we're there as well. And then we also want to talk about our social media pages that Louie and Mark do such a great job of updating. And Louie was here tonight, Tim, being one of our moderators. I'm going to give a round of applause to Louie for posting all sorts of links and things like that tonight because he did an excellent job. But he also does an excellent job on our Facebook and Twitter feed. So make sure that if you want to see all of Louie's posts and Mark's post and my post, that you go to facebook.arcaderepairtips.com and like our page. Or if you don't want to do that, you can always get the same information on our Twitter feed at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. We have always great links to arcade-related stuff, and hopefully we'll find some great information posted up there that you will find useful. So, Tim, I think that's about it for this episode as far as the regular episode goes. Is there anything that you would like to mention as far as the teaser for the after show? We do have exclusive information on Tiger King. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm getting a report. Exclusive information on Tiger King. Hang on.
Everybody who's actually met Joe Exotic right now.
There we go. We got one right there.
Okay.
So there you go. Now, he's in jail right now, right?
Yeah, and, Jonathan, one thing I was reading was he, it was reported that he was being isolated because there was some COVID outbreak in jail. But I am reading now that he actually they are treating him in a medical prison hospital for it. So he's being isolated because people are on the inside are saying that he does have it.
There you go. So prayers for Joe Exotic while he's in jail. But we're going to be talking about what we think of Tiger King here in the after show. If you guys want to stay tuned for that. And of course, you'll be breaking your exclusive, right, Tim? So we'll be doing that. We'll also be talking about just general COVID-19 updates. How are you doing? How we're doing. We'll be talking about Tim's investment portfolio, which right now sucks, I'm sure. And then we'll be also talking about the non-existent sports territory. But Tim, maybe some possibilities for what may be the upcoming MLB season. We'll be talking about that. Some cord-cutting talk. And, of course, movies and TV shows we've been watching. So make sure that you stay tuned for the after show right after the show. If you're on YouTube or if you're on the podcast, make sure you check out the YouTube page for that. Tim, is there anything else that you want to say before we head out for the after show?
No, thanks everybody for tuning in and participating in the live chat. I wish I could have read all the stuff, but thank you, Jonathan. You did a great job of moderating.
Tried to do my best. So, it's a little bit different, Tim, with the show, but I think we're getting the hang of it now after doing it for a little bit. But we do want to thank everybody, Tim, who was here tonight in the live chat. Man, we had a great chat with you guys. Thanks for being here. We want to thank all the people who donated tonight, Tim. I think we have $50 tonight, so we're going to be finding a good charity. Now, obviously, Tim, YouTube and PayPal are going to take a cut of that, so whatever portion we get is going to be going to some charity that will hopefully help those who have been affected by COVID-19, because it's just too important for us not to do that, Tim. So we will be doing that, and once we do that, we'll announce on the next live show where all that money went. But we do want to thank anybody who donated tonight for that. It's just great stuff. So, Tim, anything else?
Nope. I'll see you in the after show.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna
Tim's
switch
going to switch
rooms.
rooms while we're switching into the after show. But thank you guys if you're getting off here for joining us tonight. And Tim, our next show will be obviously in May. We look forward to seeing you then. And remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game, there you go. I'll let
You
Tim take
play
us
the
out, and
game.
we'll see you in the after show. If not, we'll see you next month. Take care, everybody. See you here in a bit or later.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
Okay, and we're back. And Tim, I'm going to have to get your audio back in here. Okay, it looks like oh, hang on. Okay, now. Okay, I think you're there. There we go. We got you.
Yes.
So everybody, okay, here we go. So Tim, obviously this is the after show. How'd you think that the regular show went? I see that you have changed your setting a little bit.
Yeah, I was borrowing my son's room while he was working out. I didn't realize he had already snuck back in the house, but he was being real quiet and just letting me do it. So when I found out he was back, I thought, well, I'll just move on to the, my office area, or our office area, I should say, is kind of part of the kitchen. So you may hear my wife over there. She's putting up supper and some dishes, but anyway, I just moved to my normal spot.
There you go. So, Tim, obviously, let's just check in on everybody. So if you're in the live chat, first off, thank you to the live chat. I mean, the live chat to me, Tim, makes the show most nights, and that is definitely true tonight. I felt like you guys were on point, had a lot of great guests in there, a lot of great people, a lot of great questions. Golly, just a very lively live chat. So big props to the live chat tonight for being a big part of the show. But let's go ahead and ask you guys, COVID-19, how are you doing? What are you doing? Are you safe? Are you okay? Are you struggling? Let us know right now. We want to know. Tim, while we're waiting on responses from the live chat, though, you mentioned that we're both safe and we're both working, and that is true. But what's going on other than that? What are you doing? Obviously, you're going to work at your new job. How is that compared to what it may be normally?
Well, they're just doing drive-through and takeout, so Texas law says that there can be no more than 10 people in any building right now, including workers. So even if we have, say, 5 people come in, a couple of them are technically have to stay out until we move that one person in. So we're definitely practicing, words we never heard before, like social distancing and stuff like that. But thank God I can go to work, and we do have a drive-through, and people can still get food. Of course, when Gaddy's closed, we just were not getting enough business at the time to pay the light bill. And it's sad, but the building was never designed. I think that I said in the future, if I'm involved in any new store openings, I don't think I would build any restaurant now without some good drive-through method or curbside pickup area. I think that's going to change the way we do a lot of things from here on. I noticed when I went to Lowe's today, or the other day, they had those plexiglass partitions between you and the cashier. I told my wife, I said, those will stay up. Those probably will never come down. Some of the ways that we have done things forever, I think have forever changed. And probably some of it's for the good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, So we always battle these huge flu seasons, and things like that. Maybe we need to learn a little bit how to handle those situations a little better. And we certainly, are concerned. And for a while there, a part of me thought, well, maybe it was just a type of flu, wasn't really that big a deal. Then, now I'm really on board with let's do whatever we can. I've had a couple family members now that have it that are in quarantine. So guys, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. I want to mention them by name. They don't, one lives pretty local and one lives in Indiana. But that it's scary when it hits home, when people, have this and they talk about how awful it is and stuff. And, I said this forever. I don't know what I had last November, but the doctor said I had flu-like symptoms, but it wasn't the flu, and he couldn't figure out what it was. And I coughed my head off, and so we don't know. But overall, I think we're adjusting. My wife would much rather be at school teaching her kids. She misses her class. It was that first week of spring break was pretty good. The next week was okay, but after that, she's ready to go back to work, and she can't. So she's having Zoom meetings with her first grade students. Jonathan, you mentioned you probably have done more Zoom meetings than anybody I know, you and your wife lately. And here we are Skyping the live show. how things have changed in a short
Yeah, it
period
feels
of
like
time.
it's only been like 2 or 3 weeks, but it feels like 2 or 3 months at this point, maybe even 2 or 3 years, really. I mean, it's just amazing how fast things have changed. And yeah, I feel like either me or my wife have been on a Zoom or a Skype or something like that all week. Like one of us, we take turns with it. She is a children's minister, Tim, as you know, and so she's been talking with her kids at the church and things like that, doing that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, I've been doing some things with you, Sunday school and things. I am going into work every day, but when I go into work, a lot of times I'm video conferencing with somebody at my job instead of, walking around like I normally would, going to see people. I'm video conferencing from my desk even though I'm there. I only come out of my office if I have to take care of something, So, I mean, I am going into work actively, but it's very locked down for me. I'm trying to stay away from everybody as much as possible, and we all are. Trying to keep our safe distance. At work, they're supposed to have a big board of directors meeting at my job, and that ended up being a telephone conference because of all of this. So, I mean, it's just a lot of change for a lot of us. And Tim, we have a couple of people in the live chat here as well. The Regzer Show says, it was a good show. We are safe, but the outlook doesn't look good for the economy. I live in Vegas, and it'll be a while before people feel good about traveling and being in groups. And Tim, of course, Vegas is a place that is so dependent on tourism that I have a feeling they're going to be one of the places most hit by this economic downturn.
Well, Jonathan, you might remember, if those of you who watched the live show last month, remember I just had my 50th birthday. And my wife, right after me, turned 29. And
29.
But,
I just caught that. Sorry, I'm slow.
Because we were both celebrating milestone birthdays, we had asked for, hey, how about some...
That was Brown's by the way.
Okay. Said that... we were both had some money for our birthdays, and we were going to go on a trip. And our first choice was to go to Vegas. And then we thought, well, that's kind of out of the way. And then we thought, well, maybe we'll just go to Galveston and go for a weekend. And I think, we haven't been anywhere yet. We haven't. So we're still saving our money. Maybe we'll get to go somewhere this summer. And we want to go on a cruise also.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how the cruise companies are really going to be hurt by this. But, a lot of people were making a big deal about them not getting the bailout. The thing is that their corporate headquarters are not in the United States in most cases, correct? Exactly. So they don't pay taxes. You don't pay taxes. You may not get a bailout. So that's the thing. Joe says, great job. This is Joe Rivera, Tim. Great job on the show. I can 3D print anything you guys want. Stay safe and awesome. Joe, you say safe and awesome. And yeah, Tim, we showed some 3D print instructions for that Coindoor lock, Tim. Maybe Joe can print one for you so you can try it out. There you go. Awesome. YouTube Punk says, John, did you see that free play button that replaces the Coindoor? Or Joe, did you see that? Yeah, and so he's just bringing up the same thing that we brought up, Tim. But again, we're really hoping and praying that you are all safe out there. If you are struggling, if you're watching this right now and you're having some issues, or if you know somebody that's having some issues, please let us know. Because, we want to hook you up with some resources if we can. If we can help you out, if there's something that we can do, we can try to do that. But, Tim, there's going to be a lot of people affected by this. And Tim, fortunately, they did pass that, and I don't like the term stimulus, but they did pass kind of like that bill that's going to be given everybody, a little bit of money, so that way, hopefully, that'll tide a lot of people over until they get their next paychecks. And so that is a really good thing, I think, for those who are struggling right now. It's going to make a huge difference for them.
I'm putting my money down.
Oh, well, there you go. So now, seriously, you want to know what I'm putting my money into? Oh, Tim just walked away. Oh, okay. This is just like the after show. Dogs in and out, right? Oh, okay, we got everybody?
Well,
this is riveting television. You going out to let out the dogs. It's riveting. What's going to happen next? Is Tim going to have to run to the bathroom? I don't know. But anyway, it's... Seahorses at Night is asking Joe if he can print some Charmin Extra Soft, Tim. Maybe that's what we need. We need a print out of is some Charmin Extra Soft. We need 3D prints on that for sure. But obviously, Tim, this has affected everybody. Everybody. There's not, in some way or another. Even though I'm still going to my normal job, I'm not doing things the same way I normally would. And Tim, definitely feeling for your wife and for all the teachers that I know. I mean, we were on a conference call with some of our friends from our church, and there were two teachers on the call just saying, please let us get one more week with our students, just one more week. Just, I mean, even if that's all we get to do is just say goodbye to them, give us that opportunity. I don't know if we're going to get that opportunity. There's a lot of school districts around the country, Tim, that have already said they're not going to return back into session this year. So
at this point, it makes you wonder if there's if they can do any catch up good. My son is a senior this year, and we keep wondering, is he going to get to walk the aisle and graduate? And are we going to be able to sit as a family and see him? Or one of the things that as the seniors at their school always go to the kindergarten and first graders, and they would do a walk.
I did. I remember that when I was a kid.
Senior, John? And he's been looking forward to doing that because he remembers the seniors doing it, and he hasn't got to do that yet. So his prom was supposed to be last Saturday. So, it's really sad. But, to put things into perspective, it's like I heard somebody say, when I was a senior, I got drafted in Vietnam and missed my last 3 months of school. So, if as long as our kids are healthy and they're safe, we'll catch up
Absolutely.
on everything else.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like you said, I mean, it's not like, this is a tough time, but there have been tougher times in our country. The American people, I believe, Tim, and people all over the world, we're a resilient human race, and we're going to get through this, and we are going to see it through. I don't know how long it's going to take. I am praying for sooner rather than later that this thing is over, but I feel like no matter what, we're going to eventually get past this. It's just a matter of when.
You know what I heard today I thought was the greatest story, forgive me for not knowing the name of the person who makes most of the ventilators. They have a name this long, but they had said they're giving their patent or their drawings to anybody who would make them. They said they're their competitors. They were like, you can have our designs. Just make more ventilators.
And did you see Dyson? He came up with a ventilator design. Tim, my company, we make rubber products, and one of the things is we sell to a vendor who makes O-rings that go into ventilators, which is why we're what is it? What do you call it when you're what now?
Essential.
I'm an essential employee. That's it. And so, which is why I'm an essential employee, and so all that kind of stuff. Tim, I talked about my wife. She had been sick for a while. She got a coronavirus test, and it did test negative. But, she was near the end of her kind of battle with it, or battle with whatever virus she was fighting. And so there's no telling she could have had it for as long as she was sick. And so she had a lot of similar symptoms. And so just because you test negative doesn't necessarily mean you don't have it or didn't have it. It just means that you don't have it now. And the test is not always 100% accurate either. So we really don't know how widespread this is. And Tim, the biggest thing is that you can give it to other people without even knowing it. And that is the biggest thing. Tim, I read that a cancer nurse here locally had a fever, went home, and then discovered she tested positive. But here's the thing. A week before that fever hit, she could have been infecting all of those cancer patients, and she had no idea she was doing it.
Wow. Yeah, and never would have done it had she known that she was. I mean, it's not like people are doing this on purpose. The singer Joe Diffie died and from it. And guys who listen to country music, I'm very close to a person who writes his songs. In fact, if you've heard his song, As Long as There's a Bar, which is his latest hit, my friend wrote that song for him. And he is just devastated right now. Here, his hero, we grew up in Louisiana together, and then he got to meet and write songs for the person he thought was the greatest country singer ever. Can you imagine? It's like one of us getting to go and work for Troy Aikman one day and meet him and hang out with him and be in the broadcast booth with him. And anyway, and then for him to die, so all of a sudden now we're starting to see these famous people that are getting it. And, it's not a respecter of persons. And from rich, from kings to, or prince to the poorest people, So, but I do think there's a lot of hope and that there are drugs that are working. And so I'm very hopeful that as long as we stay keep our social distancing and do what we're supposed to. Even if we got to go to the store, take a little extra time. One thing, Jonathan, we really liked, and I know you've traveled abroad. When we were in Europe last summer, we noticed they never got in as much a hurry as we do. Like when they would go to eat, you might go 2 hours and they would just sit and talk. It was a really big deal, whereas we go and get our food, get our check, and get out. And I hope that one thing that I'm starting to do is when we can go out to eat again, let's not rush. Let's tip well, but let's enjoy the meal, enjoy the conversations that we can't have right now.
I'm with you, Tim. And YouTube Punk says, while this pandemic is awful, it's a good chance for people to come together in different ways, and that is exactly correct. So, if you have the means, like we said, try to help some of these people who are struggling, Tim. This is a great time for us, like YouTube Punk said, to come together and to help people around us. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's buying a T-shirt from like I said, an arcade bar, or if it's giving some money to a fund that's helping people who are on the first responders, or whatever the case may be. Put your money towards helping some people. And Tim, I've never spent a dime of money helping somebody that I regretted spending. And so, it's just, if you have the means and you have some extra money lying around, and I know it's real tempting, Tim, to maybe go out and buy another arcade game, or to go out and spend some money on a new video game, and, that's fine too. But why not maybe get something a little bit cheaper and throw a little of that cash towards some people who really need it right now. So
what about our listeners? I know you can see the chat room. Really, it's kind of funny. I thought it was almost comical when we were out of toilet paper, and I thought, but it really has. It's starting to get, to the point where you're like, I told my wife, there's certain items, if you see them, you got to get them while they're there. We're pretty stocked up on everything and in good shape, but it's almost just kind of crazy. Would you ever thought that you'd go to the store, go to Walmart, and there's 2 racks, whole, sections of their thing that's completely empty, and now it's been 2 weeks. As soon as they get some in, it's all gone. What are you guys experiencing where you live? At the other hand, I paid $1.54 for gas, a gallon, and of course we have nowhere to go. But,
that's why you're paying that for, because the demand is so low, and the Saudis are dumping the oil on our shores. Yeah. So. But So here's something from Seahorses at Night. He says, favorite Joe Diffie song is Pickup Man, Rest in Peace, Joe. So there you go. Mine is Prop Me by the Jukebox When I Die, Tim. So if you know that one, Prop Me Up by the Jukebox When I Die.
If you've ever heard, guys, help me with this song, the one that says like Route 5, Box 109, that's a song that my friend Kaylin Griffin wrote, and I've been to that address. That's actually his mother's address. And he wrote about going home, and Joe Diffie sang that song. I've actually been to that address, so that's my favorite.
Louis
Joe
posted
Diffie
a
song.
link, Tim, to the Medtronic schematics that you were talking about for the ventilators. So Louis on top of the ball once again there, Tim, for us. So we want to thank Louis for that. And apparently Tim is being endorsed by Coca-Cola tonight. You're like one of the American Idol judges, Tim. So there you go. Got to make sure you get that Coca-Cola in there.
I'm drinking some sweet tea.
So, YouTube Punk says it's $1.44 at Costco where he is. So, and he's down south of Texas. Wow. So yeah, golly, gas is so cheap all over the place right now. So, but like you said, got nowhere to go. So, it is what it is. So, now, Tim, we can talk about investments real quick. Obviously, investing has been a dangerous thing to do lately, considering the way that the market's been going. But what overall, how's your portfolio looking?
Well, to be honest, when a lot of this was going down in China, I thought to myself, I said, so much of our goods come from there, that I cashed out a lot of my stocks and just to go into a hold mode. I think a lot of people are mad at some senators for doing that, and some representatives of Congress. But I think it was actually, they knew what I knew. It was coming. And so I didn't lose a ton of money. I did keep my $10 investment in. It's down to about $5.47, I think. But it's actually went down to $4 and something, so it's kind of on its way back up. I wish the day that it really hit the hardest, John, I said, man, I need to buy some of this Dave & Buster stock when it was like $4. I know you were crying, but I was like, it was kind of a good time to buy. I
I
did
did
buy
buy
some
some more Dave and
Walmart
Buster's
stock.
stock. Call me a glutton for punishment. I was trying to get my my median price down. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I am a big fan of Abbott Industries anyway, and I own their stock. If you didn't hear of Abbott Industries lately, now you know. They invented a 15-minute COVID test. Uh, so that is fixing to be rolling out everywhere, and I think that they're doing. There's been a lot of. I've actually made more money in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 2 months. So I've just had to be real smart with my investing and changing what I'm investing in. I'm probably going to buy some oil stock now, because I know that stuff will return. I still may throw some money at Dave and Buster's just because I like them, and
They'll come
I
back.
do think that when
Yeah,
this
they'll
is
come back.
over, we'll come
So,
back. Yeah.
John says Costco rationed out toilet paper. Factories are slowly catching up to the hoarding demand. And here's the deal, Tim. So what's happening is that toilet paper companies are trying to crank it out as fast as they can. But basically what they've done is they've cut back everybody's allocation. So whatever
Right.
like whatever Walmart normally gets allocated for toilet paper, they're now getting 5% of that. Okay, and that's because they're trying to
Right.
keep the demand up. And so I ordered some toilet paper from Walmart. It was available in stock for like 30 minutes on like Sunday afternoon or something like that, last Sunday afternoon. It came on Wednesday, but it got shipped directly from the manufacturer. It never even hit Walmart's warehouse, because you could see the shipping person was actually Kimberly Clark, who's the company who makes the toilet paper. And so
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
actually the toilet paper companies are actually drop shipping it from them directly to you if you're ordering it online. And so they're trying their best to get toilet paper out. But like you said, there's so many people just went out and like hoarded it all. And that's why we're out. I mean, Tim, I was supposed to get a shipment of toilet paper from Amazon like this month. I get it like on a bi-monthly basis automatically. Or like every 2 months.
Right.
So I get a order of toilet paper every 2 months automatically from Amazon. Well, they're out, and so they can't ship me any. So I placed the order at Walmart, got that one, so we're good now. But it's tough right now because there's people who are hoarding it and sitting on like stockpiles of toilet paper. I don't know what they're doing with it, but it's not like it goes bad either. So I guess you can hold on to it for a while. So
I'm looking up Kimberly Clark's portfolio. Would you believe that they're actually over the last
that one
3
surprised
months
me.
they're down? They were $145 3 months ago, and they're $129 right now. So maybe a good time to
Yeah, I
buy
mean, I
some
can't imagine
Kimberly
what their earnings
Clark.
are going to be for the next quarter. So, I mean, with so many people buying toilet paper and things, and cleaning products, Tim, they do cleaning products as well. So,
Yes, Clorox.
oh yeah.
stock is
So, I
up.
mean, man, Lysol and everything like that. I mean, golly, there's going to be a lot of that. SC Johnson, right? I mean, SC Johnson's probably going to be high as well. So,
Yeah,
now, Tim, let's talk about sports. There are none. Okay,
right.
but I don't know if you've been watching. They're
Well-
replaying old games. In fact, tonight, I think on Fox Sports 1, they're replaying the Texas Showdown XFL game that you and me went to. So you can
Yeah.
actually watch the game that me and Tim went to
Yeah.
on, I think it's Fox Sports 1 tonight, or maybe Fox, I can't remember. But Fox Sports
Yeah.
1, you can watch the Texas Showdown between the Houston Roughnecks and the Dallas Renegades if you want to watch that. Some of those guys have now signed NFL contracts, Tim. So who would have thought a
That
month
can
later
still
you'd be in the
stay.
NFL? So so you're able to watch some things, Tim. They're replaying a lot of old games. They replayed the 2010 ACLS Game 6 for the Rangers on one of our stations here, which of course we were at. They replayed the 2011 Dallas Mavericks run against the Heat, which was really awesome. If you haven't been watching that, so it's a great time to relive some great moments in sports history wherever you're located on your regional sports network. So it may not be new sports, but
Yeah.
at least you get something.
Well, and that's what somebody said. If one thing that's kind of been nice, Jonathan, you and I both have professional degrees and stuff. But don't think your job is meaningless if you work at Walmart or Dollar General, or you drive a truck, or whatever your trade is. You're a welder or whatever. This country right now is run by people that are really hard working, and I think we're not. we're not listening to Hollywood. We're not listening to sports characters. We're listening to doctors and people that are really important. And I think it's kind of drawing us in. Sports is fun, and we love it. We talk about it a lot. We go to sporting events. But when it boils down to it, what really matters is your family and your friends and just sticking together through a time like this. I just, we were eating dinner the other night. All four of us were at the table looking at each other like, when is the last time this has even happened,
So, I mean, it does give you something to watch, though, like I said, and even if you're not watching sports, you can spend some time with the family. Now, Tim, I listen to a lot of baseball podcasts, and one of the things they're talking about is how they're going to fix this season once we get started again. And there's been a lot of talk about MLB implementing 7-inning doubleheader games. So basically what they're going to do is they'll play 7 innings like in the morning and 7 innings in the evening, 2 different games that you'll have to buy a ticket for both if you want to go to both, but as a way to catch up the season. And to be honest with you, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so funny, You have an asterisk if you win, or you were the best 7-inning team.
Well, I mean, sometimes we got to adjust based on what it is, right? I mean, this is not a normal season. It's going to be different anyway. So.
Well, it's just like if it's snowing, both teams play in the snow, right? So everybody's under the same thing.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think it's cool. There's some other things that are being talked about as well, but I think baseball is going to be different than it has ever been played before, and I think we can say that same thing about hockey, finishing out the hockey season, finishing out the NBA season. We're going to see some scenarios that are going to be a lot different than what we're used to. But, Tim, it also opens up a lot of creativity for these leagues to do some different things and try some different stuff that maybe they haven't tried before. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens when sports resume. So. Yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to cord cutting talk. Tim, probably the biggest cord cutting news is now you can watch everything that was in the theater at your house. So
it
really is, and so I hope you guys are supporting this because I think it's the coolest thing. I mentioned on the special after show we had that I bought Emma, and we actually got around to watching it. Tim, we rented it. It was $20. My wife watched most of it. I fell asleep in it because we watched it real late at night. But, she said it was good. And then, Tim, we also did, kind of spoiler here, we bought Sonic the Hedgehog. So we'll talk about that here in a second. And we're looking forward to buying the new Trolls movie when it comes out next Friday. So.
And I watched Invisible Man, which I was wanting to go to the theater to see anyway, but certainly enjoyed watching it.
And I do want to mention this. If you do not have cable, you may want to sign up for Sling because Sling is offering a 14-day trial, no credit card required. So if you have or you can sign up one of your other email addresses to that if you want a 14-day trial, but you can actually sign up for 14 days of Sling for free, no credit card required. So give you 2 weeks of viewing some great cable shows and things like that, completely free, and definitely recommend that if you need something else to watch besides some of the stuff we're going to recommend tonight. So Tim,
and did you know, Jonathan, that they're also offering a lot more channels for free right now, like specifically news channels and about the COVID virus and stuff. So they have like Fox News and CNN and a lot of channels that aren't normally available.
So again, check out Sling, guys, if you want access to that. Somebody says, get to Tiger King. We're going to get to that here in a second. I'm going to save that for the very end because, we got to leave you in suspense. I'm sorry, Seahorses at Night. So let's go ahead and get through some of the movie and TV talk real quick, Tim. So, Tim, you just said that you were rewatching Tiger King, which I thought was hilarious. So you haven't watched...
I'm watching it again for the second time because and trust me, I've seen there's a lot of stuff.
So I'll talk about what I have actually been watching. We watched Sonic the Hedgehog. I actually bought it, and Tim, very good. So better than expected, I would say. It was a little scary, maybe just a little bit, but overall, it actually told a really good story. Jim Carrey is just silly, wacky Jim Carrey, like you remember him from the 90s, plays an over-the-top bad guy in Dr. Robotnik. Sonic, though, the redesign that they did on the character sprite looks great. Look, this is not like the best movie you've ever seen, but it's a very serviceable kids movie. And if you got kids, in that like 7 to 10 range, they're going to eat this up. So, I mean, and I'll probably end up watching it a couple more times. I liked it a lot. Highly recommend it. And Tim, you can get it from some of the websites for like $10 even purchase. So you may want to do that. Good stuff. And then Tim, I mentioned that there's no sports on, so I'm trying to get my sports fix. Have you seen The Program, which is a movie about Lance Armstrong? Okay, it came out in 2016.
No.
It has one of my favorite actors in it, Lee Pace, who is also in *Halt and Catch Fire*, if you remember that. But Tim, it is basically about how Lance Armstrong defrauded us all and how he is a terrible person. But it is a movie. It is on Amazon Prime, free to watch for Prime members. If you are interested at all about Lance Armstrong, you should watch this movie. I have heard that it is very accurate to what actually happened, and just the lengths he goes to make sure he doesn't get a positive test. It shows all of that, and it is amazing. So, again, 2016, so it's been out for about 4 years now, but a great movie if you haven't seen it. The Program, basically a story about Lance Armstrong and what he did to dope up and win all of those Tour de France's. So, Tim, Lego Masters, have you seen it?
Oh, yes. I've seen part of it.
It is really good. It is so good that me and my daughter rewatched the episodes. I have seen almost every episode at least 3 or 4 times. Will Arnett does a fantastic job, and he is just really good. So if you haven't seen Lego Masters, you need to watch it. You're missing out big time. Lego Masters is great. And like I said, Will Arnett is fantastic in it. He is funny. I always like Will Arnett. You know, he's awesome. And of course, a lot of people know he's also the voice of Lego Batman. So in the Batman movie. So, but anyway, good stuff. And then, Tim, I have one on my to-watch list that I have not gotten around to yet. It just came out on Netflix, and that is How to Fix a Drug Scandal. Have you heard about this one? Okay, so I don't know much about it either, but I did read a short little article just explaining some stuff, so I'm not going to spoil anything for those of you who haven't watched it, but it is on my watch list, and I just want to bring that up. How to Fix a Drug Scandal. It's a Netflix series, so you can watch it on there, and I believe it's another true crime, so if you're a true crime person like me and Tim are, then you may enjoy that. How to Fix a Drug Scandal. Of course, I know a lot of people, Tim, are watching Ozark Season 3, which is also up on Netflix. Dirty Money Season 2, which is another thing that's on my to-watch list, is on there as well, so hopefully I can get around to all of that. Tim, are we ready? Okay, Rexer Show says, is it Carol Baskin bashing time yet? Yes, it is. Tiger King. So this is number 1 on Netflix right now, guys. Number 1. Everybody's talking about it. And Tim mentioned it on the special live show, and I took it in. And Tim, what are your thoughts before I give my thoughts? You already heard my thoughts earlier, but I'll give them again for the audience.
I don't know. It's so bizarre. You just keep watching it. And I'll tell the backstory a little bit, John. If I hadn't grown up there, that's what makes it so funny. A lot of people, you ask me where I'm from, it kind of depends on the conversation. Because I've lived here in Texas since 1999, so a third of my life I've lived here right in Tyler. Before that, I went to high school and college in West Monroe, Louisiana. People would ask me where that is, and I would say, well, it's where Duck Dynasty is filmed, and I went to school with Willie Robinson, and everybody knows who that is. But before that, I lived in a little town called Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, which is 7.1 miles away from Wynnewood, Oklahoma, if that sounds familiar to those of you who've watched the show. I had good friends. I've been to Wynnewood hundreds of times, and one time, after we lived even here in Tyler in the early 2000s, I wanted to go see an Oklahoma football game. You might remember this, John. I went to an Oklahoma football game, and we took Connor, and my friend said they would watch him for us, and we could come back by and pick him up after the football game. So I called them after the football game. I said, where are you? And they said, well, we're at the Tiger Zoo. And I was like, Tiger Zoo? What are you talking about? They said, well, we're just down the road in Wynnewood. If you want to meet us there, you might enjoy it too. Connor's getting to play with some tigers. And so we went and picked up Connor and met Joe Exotic, who was very exotic, very unique character, but honestly very friendly and very funny and very amusing. We actually had a really good time. I'm very thankful we didn't eat the pizza there or any other food, but quite a cast of characters. I told my wife, there's about 10 characters in this show. Each one of them could probably have their own reality show, but they're all in one. So I have met Joe Exotic, and Winniewood, Oklahoma is about 7 miles from where I grew up, and I think even right near some friends of mine's land that they owned. I think they might even sold him some of the land where his zoo was held, or there. So, but just when you're watching it and you think it can't get any crazier, it just keeps getting crazier. And even today, I think season 2 is gonna. They've already been filming.
So here's the deal. So I'm gonna just share what I thought of it. This is not a spoiler or anything. I'm not gonna try to spoil it. So if you haven't seen it, I'm not gonna spoil it to you. But I told Tim my thoughts. He kind of laughed. So Tim, this is the equivalent of watching a 4 to 5 hour NASCAR crash. This is like the exact equivalent of that. Tim, none of these people that are featured in this documentary have many redeeming qualities at all. It's pretty much just a whole bunch of terrible people. And I mean, I hate to say that. Here's the deal. It is crazy. These people are nuts, Tim. They are nuts. Like, typically when you watch a true crime documentary, you've got a good guy, you've got a bad guy, and good guy is struggling against bad guy comes out on top, or good guy comes out on top and we're good, or whatever the case may be. There's no good guy. There's no bad guy. They're just all crazy. And so, if you're wanting, we mentioned The Pharmacist, Tim. We watched The Pharmacist on Netflix. A great documentary. We thought, obviously, it was kind of incomplete at the end, but at least in The Pharmacist, you had this good guy, and this good guy taking on the bad guy, right? That's not this. This is pure, car wreck TV. Pure car wreck TV. So you've got to like car wrecks a lot to get through this. I struggled to get through it, really, just because it was so crazy. It's almost beyond belief crazy. So that was my take on it.
Yeah. But then there was just the, you got to figure that anybody and if you collect exotic cats, you'd really like to know. But I think anybody that even that thought comes into their head, that it's okay to have a tiger for a pet, I think you got to be a little bit outgoing and maybe a little bit crazy. I know Shaq has some, I think of Mike Tyson and his tiger, stuff like that. It just, I think crazy is not the best
eccentric,
word. Maybe
I think eccentric is a fantastic word.
They're a little bit out there. But then you got Joe, who's just off the chain, it's just funny. I don't know. It makes me laugh because I just know people like that. It just reminds me of some of the people I grew up with in Oklahoma. God bless them. We got our share here in Texas and Louisiana too. Don't get me wrong. People always ask me, "Is Willie and Chase Robinson really like that?" And I'm like, "Yes, they are really like that." But they are nowhere near the Joe Exotic area of redneck. I don't even know if that's redneck.
So if you haven't seen it, Tim, it is number 1 on Netflix. A lot of people are talking about it. But here's the premise: is that it's basically just a documentary about people who don't just have 1 or 2 cats, really. They have a collection of tigers and exotic animals. And so these are people who have collections of exotic animals. And Tim, like you said, it takes some really eccentric people to want to do that anyway, right?
Yeah, the guy that rides in I want to call him Anvil, Antel or whatever. He rides in on the elephant, and it's like he's had the elephant since it was a baby. And but I mean, given the chance, though, who wouldn't want to hold a baby tiger? I mean, they're it's just so rare, and to get to do that. The problem is when they get about 6 months old, they get really unpredictable. They're really tame. They just don't know they're powerful as they are, and they hurt people. When you find a zookeeper who they interview who has one arm,
exactly.
You'll find out why.
But I mean, it's very dangerous, obviously. And so, I mean, you have to be a little half crazy to do it, in my opinion. And these people are a little half crazy. God love them. They are a little half crazy. But to me, it's it was just tough to watch because it's like these people are they're doing this stuff that they should absolutely know is crazy, but they do it anyway.
And the thing, Jonathan, he got 19% of the vote.
That shows you how much people distrust politicians, right there. So, let's see. Louis says, "Oh, I know them pretty well," and Louis, I thought of you because, one of the guys, Doc Antel, like you mentioned, Tim, is located in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is close to where Louis is located. And so I thought about Louis too. Tim, I've been to Myrtle Beach and I thought about that. It's like, I don't remember the safari there, but I didn't really look it up either. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they said that his land's been confiscated, right, Tim? I think they said that at the end on the last episode that they took it in December of last year. So I don't know if Doc Antel still has his area or not.
Well, I think the laws have changed where they're making it harder for people just to own that many. I know one time Joe Exotic said he had 227. It's like, and he said it took over 30 cows a day to feed them. I mean, at some point you can't afford to feed them. You shouldn't have them.
So, Night says, who thinks Carol Baskin killed her husband?
Oh,
yeah,
she
exactly.
definitely killed her husband.
It's like there's definitely something there.
Even OJ. Yeah, even OJ will admit that one.
Obviously, if you watch the documentary, there's obviously enough evidence there. And Tim, I think that we've seen now that they've opened up that case now to see if they can find more leads. So there you go. Oh, Louis says he's known him since the mid-90s. Doc Antel, he says no, he's just closed down right now. He still has it. So he still has I forget what his animal refuge thing is called, but
it may be more popular than ever if he opens it back up this summer. Now, I notice he's on
Cameo, so you can actually get him to send you a message, Tim, if you'd like. I don't know if you know what Cameo is. It's a platform where you can buy, you pay an amount of money and they, the celebrity will send you a video. So he is on Cameo, Tim, if you'd like him to send you a nice message or something like that. So, I don't know, or you can ask him a question and get him to answer it.
But, if... let's see, what do they say? It's like there's polygamy, there's murder, there's murder for hire, there's blowing stuff up. The show that has it all.
It definitely does. It is crazy, guys. There's crazy people in it. So, but like I said, the story, I tell you what, they do the best job that they can portraying all this stuff, but it is just all over the place. It is crazy, and I told you I actually feel dumber having watched it. I think I'm going to stand by that. But I guess I was entertained for a little bit.
My good friend posted the other day. He said that there was a circus that came to Pauls Valley, and that most people weren't expecting circus prices to be between $20 and $30. So there were probably about 20 kids who were sitting outside that didn't have enough money to go in. Said Joe Exotic pulled up in a limo, always one looking for the cameras and stuff, but no cameras were around. Saw those kids over there, asked them why aren't they going in the circus, and they told him they didn't have the money. He said he went over there and paid for all them to get in, and then went and bought them all concessions and stuff. So there's always the TV side that you see, and then there's the other side. One thing, Jonathan, I wanted to mention, you just got a green screen, and you remember that Joe started off as an internet live show. And the guy from Hard Copy, who was his original producer, took over. So, maybe somebody will take our show one day. John, you don't know how big we could actually
Tim, we're
be.
not nearly as interesting as he is. Maybe we are. I don't know. But if we can find a big-time producer, if you want to produce our show, give me a call. But, I don't think we're as interesting as Joe Exotic. That guy was just crazy every minute and just crazy stuff. But Seahorses Night says, I think Joe may get a reduced sentence for working with the FBI against the other pet owners, maybe. So, now...
Did you know that he is also being sued because that's not him singing? Oh, I didn't know that.
The singing I thought was a little... It didn't sound like his voice. Right.
Well, it's really good. Yeah,
gotcha.
He's Milli Vanilli. This story is going to break soon. I'll give you guys the hint that the song, the actual people that are singing that, he wrote the songs. They gave him a demo of them singing his songs and how maybe they would produce some on an album, and he took it and made it, said, here's my album. So you might Google that one.
Is that your exclusive information you're telling us?
He's actually Milli Vanilli. But if you know country music, you don't know who Joe Exotic is. You don't know country music.
Is that the exclusive information you had for us, Tim?
Yeah, that's one. He's
you got more than one. What's another one you got?
Well, that we did mention earlier that he's not being quarantined to get away from COVID. That inside scoop is that he has the virus. So we don't want to see Joe die or anything. Absolutely. I hope that he is okay. Because we need a season too.
Look through this whole thing, guys. I mean, I am just hoping that everybody who has COVID-19 makes a full recovery. Tim, I mean, it's looking like the death rate's at like what 2 or 3%, something like that.
It's really 3%, I think, worldwide. I don't think it's that high here in the United States. The problem is, John, my niece and nephew have been sick as a dog. They go, and the doctor told them yesterday, yes, we're 90% sure, here's some medicine, go home. They're like, if it gets worse, come back to the hospital, which is fine. They're quarantined. They can't even go to the grocery store, nowhere for 2 weeks. We understand that. That's smart. They're doing okay. They do not feel good. They are struggling and battling it, but they're doing okay. Okay? Did they get counted as the new cases for today, or the fact that they didn't even get tested? So that means we have 57 people now, John, in our area that have been tested positive for it. So if they didn't, is there another 200 or 300 walking around just because they haven't been tested? And will they get the benefits that they need because they can't go to work and stuff if they aren't officially known to have it? You know, it's kind of tough. So I'm really worried about them in this time. You know, it's almost better to be diagnosed with it so you can say, hey, I can't come to work. I've got COVID. I've got to stay home. Or people stay away from me. You know, it's easy. But I guess a lot of people don't want to just – I know what they're saying. They're like, we don't want to overrun the hospitals. If you can stay home and we give you I know they gave them the Z-Pack and that kind of stuff. So maybe they'll be,
so I mean, that's the idea, Tim. Obviously, there's a limited number of ventilators, like we've talked about, and so the key is to if you don't have to be hospitalized with it, if you can recover, just stay home and recover. But yeah, those people aren't being counted in new cases, and so you have to keep that into account. There's more cases out there than what the numbers reflect. The numbers are just an idea, but the numbers are way higher than what they actually show. And so just keep that in mind when you're looking at those numbers. They can be helpful, but they are not necessarily accurate. So Seahorses of the Night says, you could maybe spice up your show with an arch nemesis, anybody you guys hate. So there you go. Like, we need a Carol Baskin, I guess is what he's saying. Louis suggested Cortec monitors. So, but Tim, I try not to hate too many people. That's just me personally. But there may be people I strongly dislike. Maybe that's a good way to say it.
The wheels are turning right now. I'm getting some good ideas.
What do you got? Come on, spit it out.
I know why that game won't work.
Yeah, Cortec monitors. So there you go.
Cortec monitor broke all my games.
I had one Cortec monitor in one cabinet. My whole game room blew up.
Infected my whole game room.
Cortec is single-handedly responsible for COVID-19 right there. And you're just going to keep on going with it?
Yeah, probably some bubbles I popped from China in my bubble wrap.
So there you go. Oh, there you go. You got a dog now. Yeah, YouTube Punk says we need a Billy Mitchell. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're somebody's Billy Mitchell. We don't even know.
Seahorse of the Night says maybe Mr. Conversion Kit as an arch nemesis. He converts all games to PBA bowling. So there you go. Or maybe converts all games to 60-in-1s or something like that. I don't know. Obviously, guys, no arch nemesis around here, but you never know. It could happen. I don't know. But Cortec monitors definitely high on the list. But I can't think of anybody else who may be an arch nemesis for us at this point. So person who converts classics to MAME cabinets. That's what YouTube Punk says. So yeah, I mean that would be the closest thing. But even those people, they bought the cabinet, right? They can do what they want to with it. We're too relaxed to have an arch nemesis. Maybe that's it. See, in order to have an arch nemesis, you have to. I guess you have to be really pissed at somebody. And obviously, Joe Exotic was at Carol Baskin. I mean, golly. How many times... I didn't even count. You're watching it the second time. Count how many times her name is mentioned by him. I'm curious.
Yeah, in the first episode alone, probably 50 times.
And I know that they clipped all that, but still, he obviously mentioned her name quite a bit. So...
Every night on his live show.
She acts like she's all holier than thou. She's not.
Yeah. Her tigers are in pins too, and she's making all that money with all those people, volunteers. A lot of her volunteer work.
She's just as bad as the rest of them. I mean, she wants to say it's all noble and everything, but it's not. I mean, you can admit it. I mean, you're just as bad as the rest of them. You keep them in smaller cages than the others. It was just crazy. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think I'm about done here, Tim. It's about 8:30, so we've been going for, 3 hours or something? Oh, hang on a second. Has Tim seen the trailer on Hulu called The Hug? Okay.
No.
I have not either. It's on Hulu.
The Hug. Okay.
So, I'm going to recommend you try it out. That's from YouTube Punk, and report back to us and let us know. So...
I remember that.
The Hug.
The Hug.
So, I've got some stuff on Hulu I wanted to watch. I want to watch that Hillary Clinton documentary. Have you seen that one? In her own words, I think.
Her and Carol Baskin are good friends.
So, but...
Good friends with Carol Baskin, I heard. That's what Joe said.
It's on YouTube, too.
Joe said he would vote for Hillary over Carol Baskin.
YouTube Punk says it's on YouTube, too. It's a 5 NAF movie teaser. It's oldish. I don't know. So, that's just what he's saying. So, yeah, but I haven't seen it, The Hug. So, but anyway. So, anything else?
Nah, we need to go. I'm going to go eat.
You see, now typically when you're here, I feed you.
I know. My daughter bought us all dinner tonight from one of our favorite restaurants. She went to Texas Roadhouse and got some pulled pork sliders
they had like
and
the
stuff.
Family dinners that you can order. A lot of places are doing that, guys. Where you can get the whole thing. Oh, Seahorses of the Night says Clinton Cash. Oh, YouTube Punk says that The Hug is like Five Nights at Freddy's. So Five Nights at Freddy's. So you'll have to check it out and let us know. But anyway, well, Tim, it's been fun. I haven't seen you. Obviously, this is the first time we've been together since the special live show that we did. And usually we talk on the phone or talk a little bit more often than this. But, it is what it is with all the social, social distancing and everything. We're just trying to make it all work. So, Tim, I will mention one thing. I don't know. We may have to reschedule the June show because it looks like something that I had tickets for is going to be rescheduled for that date. So the June live show may not be on the first Thursday of the month. So we may have to reschedule. And that's because it wasn't supposed to be, but it's been rescheduled because of, obviously, everything that's going on. It's actually scheduled for this month, but you know how things have been going. So we may have to reschedule that one. May show should go off just like normal. And Tim, I am praying that by the time we get to the May show, maybe you can be here in person. But we'll play that by ear, and we'll just see. Obviously, we may have to do it remotely again, and that's fine too. But we'll figure it out. And we'll see everybody next month. Tim, anything else you want to say before we head off?
No, thanks everybody for watching. Hope everybody's staying safe and working on your games and enjoy the time off if you're off work. If you're having to work, our prayers are with you, and hang in there, everybody. It's going to be okay. We'll get through
Absolutely.
this
And
soon.
also, Tim, the $50, whatever our cut is from that $50 that we got tonight from live show. And again, thank everybody who donated. We will put our portion towards a charity of some sort. And once we do, we will let you know what that charity is. Because again, we want to help everybody who's been affected by COVID-19, especially the frontline people, Tim. So if you're a nurse or a doctor, or if you're a grocery store clerk, or if you're a truck driver, or whatever you are, that you're in the supply chain right now, we just want to thank you so much for your service at this time, and just ask you to hang in there and hope you just stay safe, wash your hands, and continue to do what you've been doing. It's greatly appreciated. Delivery people too, Tim, UPS, USPS, and FedEx people as well. So thank you guys. So let's see. And YouTube Punk says, take care and be safe. Seahorses of the Night says, watch out for Mr. Conversion Kit, Tim. So there you go. That could be an evil version of Tim. I got a great idea for this. Evil version of you could be Mr. Conversion Kit. We'll dress you up like a scientist or something. And he'll give you like one of those twirly mustaches. Mr. Conversion Kit. I've got it already. We can have our own arch nemesis. There we go. So anyway, okay, well, guys, everybody have a great night tonight. Thank you, Louie, for being in the live chat tonight. Awesome job as always, and we'll see you next month. Take care and be safe. Wash your hands. Bye-bye.